Chapter 66. The woman who walked in from the door was in her early 20s, dragging a suitcase. She was tall, had long legs, and was young and beautiful, especially the pair of long legs under the shorts. They were fair and smooth, and their length took up more than half of her height. They were particularly eye-catching. With such a pair of legs, she could definitely be a first-class leg model. The woman's chest was very firm, and her white round-neck t-shirt was stretched high and tight. Her shape was like two large-caliber cannon shells, coupled with a delicate face and long black hair. She was like Angelina Jolie in Hollywood blockbusters, sexy and charming, but also a little brave and fearless. This is a very special woman, Charlotte thought to himself. However, he had never seen her in the past few days, but from the tone of her voice when she spoke to Lu Sheng, she was not a new student. "Liang Xiao, when did you come back?" Lu Sheng greeted her with a flattering smile on his face. "Liang Xiao?" Charlotte glanced at Liang Zhengchun and then at the approaching Liang Xiao. He suddenly realized that Liang Xiao and Liang Zhengchun looked a little alike. Liang Xiao said, "I just got off the plane this morning. Dad, I'm back." Liang Zhengchun's expression was still very serious. "You didn't even call me when you came back. Do you still see me as your father?" Liang Xiao said with a smile, "Dad, I didn't want you to be tired from going to the airport. Isn't it good for your daughter to care about you? How long will you be back this time?" Liang Zhengchun asked. Liang Xiao said, "I won't be leaving this time. Dad, I've already quit my job there. I'll be with you every day from now on, okay?" Okay, haha. Liang Zhengchun immediately smiled. When people get old, they just want their children by their side. They don't want anything else. Being able to see them every day is a kind of blessing, a kind of comfort. Lu Sheng said with a smile, "Xiao, if you come back as an assistant, the boxing club will definitely have a lot of new students." Liang Xiao smiled back. "I'll go put down my luggage. I'll talk to you when I get back." She walked to the door of the inner room with her suitcase. When she passed by Charlotte, she said, "Don't bother with the monk. He's a rough man." Monk was Lu Sheng's nickname. Many students who were close to him called him Lu Zhishan. Charlotte smiled. "No, we're just kidding." Liang Xiao walked into the inner room with her suitcase. With her small waist and long legs, her back view was especially beautiful. Charlotte averted his eyes. In fact, he only had to think about it a little, and this long-legged Wing Chun woman would come into his sight without any cover. But he didn't want to do that. It was extremely difficult for other men to see a woman's original body, which was why it was mysterious. However, it was too easy for him. He could achieve his goal with just a thought. Therefore, the mysteries had long lost their sense of mystery and were no longer as attractive to him. In addition, he didn't want to degenerate in this aspect, so he was able to control himself. Of course, Jiang Rui was an exception. "Kid," Lu Sheng looked at Charlotte. "Have you practiced Wing Chun before?" Charlotte shook his head. "No." Lu Sheng didn't believe him. "You're lying, right? I just saw you hit the wooden dummy. You hit pretty well. It took me 8 months to reach your level. How dare you say you haven't practiced?" "I really haven't practiced." Charlotte didn't want to explain. At this time, Liang Zhengchun walked over. He pointed at the wooden dummy and said, "Lei, hit it again for me to see." "Okay." Charlotte walked in front of the wooden dummy, took a deep breath, and hit it one by one. This time, his left eye was still transmitting the image of Liang Zhengchun hitting the wooden dummies to his brain, and he was still learning how to hit them. But this time, compared to the previous time, he was more skilled and faster. In fact, this is not how strong his comprehension ability is, but he has begun to adapt to the transmission speed of his left eye. His body is becoming more and more adapted to this imitation show mode. He can more quickly and accurately imitate Liang Zhengchun's movements. This process seems complicated and magical, but in fact, it's the same as the aunties dancing in the square learning the dance moves from the DVD. But the auntie's DVD is placed on the flower bed, while Charlotte's DVD is his left eye, a part of his body. This was also a unique advantage that he possessed. No one else could surpass him. Bang, 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 bang. Charlotte hit faster and faster, and more accurately. He was completely immersed in the world of Wing Chun, forgetting everything around him. Several old students stopped their practice and came over to watch Charlotte hit the wooden dummy. A large group of people, including Liang Zhengchun, were shocked by the strange scene in front of them. In their eyes, Xiaolei is not a rookie who has just learned Wing Chun Kung Fu for a few days, but a veteran who has been immersed in Wing Chun Kung Fu for at least 10 years. Impossible? Is this kid a new student that just arrived? An old student who has been learning Wing Chun for a year opened his mouth wide and couldn't believe his eyes, because even if he went up to hit the wooden dummy, he couldn't hit Charlotte's current level. Definitely not. This kid is very scheming, pretending to be a rookie. Is he sent by other factions to cause trouble? An old student said. He's not here to pick up girls, is he? Someone said. It's possible. Liang Shiji is so hot. Maybe this kid has such a thought. Someone said. What are you talking about? Liang Shiji works in the United States and rarely comes back twice a year. This kid hasn't even seen her face. How could he have such a thought? Bullshit. I think he must be sent by other factions to cause trouble. Someone said. Several students murmured and talked excitedly, but also in a low voice. Lu Sheng's face became darker and darker. He leaned over to Liang Zhengchun and whispered, Master Liang, he said he has only learned Wing Chun for a few days. Look at his skills. Is he a person who has been learning Wing Chun for a few days? Liang Zhengchun shook his head thoughtfully. He stretched out 3 fingers and said, In my opinion, he has been practicing for at least 3 years. Lu Sheng said, Master Liang, you have been practicing Wing Chun all your life. If you say 3 years, then must be 3 years. Then why did this kid lie? It doesn't look like it, it does. Liang Zhengchun frowned. He suddenly felt uncertain again. In his eyes, Xiaolei's entire body was covered in an impenetrable fog. At this time, Liang Xiao came out and stood beside Liang Zhengchun, watching Charlotte hit the wooden dummy. Watching, she also showed a surprised look. Dad, what's this student's name? Why haven't I seen him before? His name is Charlotte. Liang Zhengchun said, He just came here a few days ago. Of course you haven't seen him. Has he practiced before? Liang Xiao said. Liang Zhengchun shook his head. No, he said it was his first time learning Wing Chun. Liang Xiao's mouth suddenly opened wide, and she looked very surprised. That's impossible. He is so skilled. How can he be a person who has only learned Wing Chun for a few days? Liang Zhengchun said, He is an honest person. He doesn't look like a liar, but he doesn't look like a person who has just learned Wing Chun. I'm not sure. I can't see through him. Liang Xiao said, That's easy. I'll practice with him and know his details. Lu Sheng said, Xiao, let me go. I'll fight with him. Go away. You're hot-tempered and don't know how to control your strength. It's better for me to go. Liang Xiao said, and she walked over to Charlotte. Charlotte just finished the last movement and stopped his fists and feet. He was very tired after this trip of wooden dummies. His forehead and body were covered with sweat, his hands and feet were sore, and many places were red and swollen. After all, his fists and feet hit hardwood. Although there were calluses on his hands, constantly hitting the dummies would definitely damage them. After this trip of wooden dummies, Xiaolei had a new understanding of the knack of Wing Chun fist, which could be regarded as a harvest. Charlotte, right? Liang Xiao said with a smile, Well done. Only then did Xiaolei realize that Liang Xiao had walked over to his side. He smiled and said politely, Miss Liang, please don't laugh at me. I was just practicing blindly. You're so good at practicing? Charlotte smiled and said nothing. Are you interested in practicing with me? Liang Xiao said. Charlotte shook his head. I've only learned for a few days. There are a lot of things that I don't understand. I'm not your opponent. I don't want to. Liang Xiao suddenly rushed forward and hit Charlotte's chest with an inch punch. Charlotte did not expect her to suddenly sneak attack. Unable to react in time, he was immediately hit by Liang Xiao's punch. Don't look at Liang Xiao as a delicate woman. The strength of her fist is not inferior to a man. This punch suddenly made him take 2 steps back, and his chest was burning with pain. Not waiting for Charlotte to stand firm, Liang Xiao closed in on Charlotte and kicked Charlotte's leg. The sweeping force immediately overturned Charlotte to the ground, making him fall in a sorry state. A few students who were watching the show immediately cheered, and Lu Sheng also applauded in an exaggerated manner. Inexplicably sneak attack me, and with such ruthlessness. Damn it! Charlotte cursed in his heart. He turned over and got up. Following that, he also put on a fighting stance, ready to fight with Liang Xiao. You should have done this earlier. As her voice fell, Liang Xiao's figure moved, and in the blink of an eye, she closed in on Charlotte and threw a punch at Charlotte's heart. This time, Charlotte was already prepared. His right hand moved and smoothly pushed Liang Xiao's fist to the side. His right elbow also hit Liang Xiao's waist. Liang Xiao's left hand dropped down and pressed down on Charlotte's right elbow and pushed forward with all her strength. In the blink of an eye, the two completed their respective offensive and defensive movements, and neither hit the other. The two looked at each other, and in an instant, they were entangled together. Liang Xiao had followed Liang Zhengchun to learn Wing Chun since childhood. Her experience and level were not something a beginner like Charlotte could compare with. But Charlotte also had his advantage, and that was his left eye. No matter how fast Liang Zhengchun's speed was, as long as he could not be faster than his left eye, he was not fast in his eyes. Therefore, once he locked his left eye on Liang Xiao, before Liang Xiao attacked, he would have a prediction, which allowed him to always avoid Liang Xiao's ruthless attack. The two people punched and kicked, and you hit and I hit, and they were locked in a stalemate. As time went on, Charlotte suffered a few punches and kicks, and Liang Xiao also suffered a few punches and kicks from Charlotte. It could be said that they were evenly matched. As they fought, a thought came to Charlotte's mind. I am a man, and my strength is definitely greater than Liang Xiao's, but her punches on my body seem to be stronger than mine. This must have something to do with the technique of exerting force. My left eye can capture her movements. She can't be faster than my left eye, but can I see the situation of her exerting force? If I can see, I can quickly master the trick of Wing Chun exerting force. Once I master it, I am not afraid of opponents like Lu Sheng. As soon as he thought of this, his left eye twitched slightly, and Liang Xiao's t-shirt and bra disappeared in a flash. His vision was filled with white. The white parts were like white snow in spring, and the pink parts were like peach blossoms in March. That seductive scene suddenly made him stunned, and his reaction was half a beat slow. Hey! With a delicate shout, Liang Xiao kicked Charlotte's lower abdomen. With a muffled sound, Charlotte clutched his stomach and fell to the ground. Are you okay? Liang Xiao quickly went to support Charlotte. Charlotte also quickly closed his eyes and secretly cursed in his heart. You deserve it. Chapter 67. Charlotte can master a foreign language in just a few days. His learning ability can be said to be against the natural order. Which is more difficult to learn a foreign language or kung fu? Obviously the former. Therefore, learning a kung fu is not difficult for Charlotte. He can quickly remember the teaching materials, and he can quickly remember all the movements of the coach. His body is also very strong. What he lacks is experience and some tricks. Once he masters these, how powerful will he become? Perhaps even Liang Zhengchun, who has been immersed in Wing Chun Kung Fu for a lifetime, does not know the answer to this question. However, the result of this competition is that Liang Xiao won and Charlotte lost. Only Charlotte knows the reason why he lost. Are you all right? Liang Xiao asked with concern. She reached out a hand to Charlotte. Charlotte did not refuse her kindness. He grabbed her hand and got up. He patted the dust on his body and said with a smile, I'm fine. I told you that I can't beat you. Do you believe me now? Have you really only learned Wing Chun for a few days? Liang Xiao's eyes are full of the meaning of temptation. Charlotte shrugged. It's really only a few days. Why would I lie to you? Lying needs a motive, but he has no motive to tell this kind of lie. Liang Xiao seems to believe Charlotte's words. She walked to Liang Zhengchun's side and whispered in her father's ear, Dad, you seem to have picked up a treasure. Why don't you accept him as your last disciple and let him win glory for our Wing Chun Kung Fu? Liang Zhengchun did not say yes, nor did he say no. He just looked at Charlotte with a little suspicion in his eyes. When Lu Sheng heard Liang Xiao's words, his face suddenly became gloomy. He's been learning kung fu here for more than 3 years. His purpose is to worship Liang Zhengchun as his master, but Liang Zhengchun has never nodded. Liang Xiao also knew about this, but she had never helped him put in a good word in front of Liang Zhengchun. Now, a Charlotte had appeared out of nowhere, and Liang Xiao had actually spoken up for Charlotte, asking Liang Zhengchun to accept Charlotte as his last disciple. How could he still feel at ease in his heart? Humph! Lu Sheng snorted coldly and strode toward Charlotte. Monk! Liang Xiao grabbed Lu Sheng and said with a smile, I haven't sparred with you in a long time. How about you spar with me? Lu Sheng turned around and looked at Liang Xiao. He didn't say anything and looked very unhappy. Liang Xiao shook Lu Sheng's arm and said sweetly, Brother Sheng, please train with me. Lu Sheng forced out a smile. All right, I'll practice with you. In his opinion, there were many opportunities to teach Charlotte a lesson, but the opportunity to spar with Liang Xiao was rare. At this time, more students came in. Liang Zhengchun went to greet the students and guide them. Several students who were watching the fun also dispersed and continued to practice. Charlotte secretly heaved a sigh of relief. When Lu Sheng walked toward him, his eyes were very scary. He knew what it meant. He was also very clear that with his current strength, he was not Lu Sheng's opponent. If he fought with Lu Sheng, he would definitely end up miserable. Lu Sheng and Liang Xiao had already started sparring, using hands, legs, and occasionally using fists, feet, and elbows to fight. Although the movements were slow, they looked very professional. Charlotte's heart moved. He secretly said, just now, I wanted to see the strength of Liang Xiao's muscles and bones, but that was in actual combat. She wouldn't give me a chance to see through her. Now that I'm free, I can observe the strength of her muscles and bones. If I can grasp the trick in this area, my strength should increase. With this thought, his left eye twitched. His left eye was like a burning flame, instantly burning Liang Xiao's clothes and then her skin. In his left eye, Liang Xiao was no longer a normal and complete human. She was like a half-dissected doll in biology class. She didn't have skin, hair, or anything else. She only had muscles, ligaments, bones, and blood vessels. But in Charlotte's right eye, Liang Xiao was a long-legged beauty. Every movement she made was pleasing to the eye. In this world, only Charlotte could appreciate such a strange scene. His left eye could see through things, but his right eye was normal. This gave Charlotte the conditions to compare and analyze. For a very simple example, when Liang Xiao made an inch punch, what Charlotte saw in his left eye was the movement of muscles and ligaments, as well as the movement of bones. They accumulated energy and then released it. But in Charlotte's right eye, what he saw was a palm changing into a fist and an instant attack. In this way, the cooperation of the left eye and the right eye and the secret of how to exert strength of Wing Chun Kung Fu were presented in front of him without reservation. So it's like this. Hee hee. A smile appeared on the corner of Charlotte's mouth. He watched Liang Xiao and Lu Sheng practice, and he couldn't help but imitate Liang Xiao's movements. This time, he imitated not only the shape, but also the inner content. What is that kid doing? A student saw Charlotte imitating Liang Xiao's movements and was very curious. The student who was practicing with him also stopped and looked at Charlotte curiously. After a while, he said, "Is that fool doing imitation? Whatever Xiao does, he does it." Soon, more students also noticed Charlotte's strange behavior. Discussions also began, some ridiculing, some curious. Liang Zhengchun's eyes also moved to Charlotte. He observed for a moment, and suddenly opened his mouth, and was so surprised that he couldn't close it. The students were watching the fun, and Charlotte was like a fool who imitated others. But in the eyes of an expert, he saw the door. Just now, when Charlotte was hitting the wooden dummy, many people said that Charlotte had learned Wing Chun Kung Fu for at least a year, but in the eyes of an expert, Charlotte, a beginner, actually had nothing to hide, because Charlotte only learned some movements and didn't know how to exert strength at all. If you didn't know how to exert strength, No matter how good his fist looked, it was just a fancy pose without any power. Therefore, he thought that Charlotte was just a clever imitator, a person who was eager for quick success. When Liang Xiao asked him to accept Charlotte as his last disciple, his heart was actually unwilling. People who practiced martial arts didn't like people who were eager for quick success, and he was no exception. However, looking at Charlotte, who was imitating Liang Xiao's movements, he was shocked and also moved. Liang Zhengchun walked over to Charlotte. When Charlotte saw Liang Zhengchun walking towards him, he ended his X-ray vision of Liang Xiao and also stopped imitating. A slight illusion appeared in front of his eyes, but quickly disappeared. Liang Zhengchun stared at Charlotte and praised, "Lei, you learn very fast." Charlotte smiled and said politely, "Master Liang, I just have a good memory. Watch me hit and learn from me," Liang Zhengchun said. Charlotte was stunned for a moment and then nodded, "Okay." In the past few days when he came to the boxing gym, Liang Zhengchun only taught him some of the most basic things, but he didn't give him any formal high-level guidance. He didn't know why Liang Zhengchun suddenly changed his mind, but this was an opportunity to learn real kung fu, and he certainly wouldn't miss it. In fact, there was a reason why he chose Liang Xiao's X-ray vision instead of Lu Shang. In his opinion, Liang Zhengchun, a direct descendant of Yan Wing Chun, must have something that wouldn't be passed on to outsiders. But Liang Xiao wasn't an outsider. She was Liang Zhengchun's daughter, and Liang Zhengchun would definitely pass on some confidential things to Liang Xiao without reservation. Therefore, he chose to use his X-ray vision on Liang Xiao to study and learn Liang Xiao's Wing Chun Kung Fu instead of Lu Shang. Now, Liang Zhengchun personally made a move, and his X-ray vision was definitely better than Liang Xiao's, and he could also learn more advanced things. Liang Zhengchun made a starting gesture and asked, "Are you ready?" Charlotte also made a starting gesture like Liang Zhengchun. "Master Liang, I'm ready." What he was ready for was actually his eyes. Liang Zhengchun shouted, stepped forward and punched, then retracted his steps and pressed his elbows and began to practice Wing Chun Kung Fu. Charlotte's left eye once again entered the X-ray vision mode, firmly locking on Liang Zhengchun. Just like how he studied Liang Xiao, now he will study Liang Zhengchun. Liang Zhengchun was really powerful. His movements were more accurate, fast like lightning, slow like willow in the wind. He was able to control and retract his force freely, attacking like a torrent and retracting like a tide. The transition was also fast, almost to the point of perfection. Everyone stopped, including Liang Xiao and Lu Shang, who also stopped practicing, moved to Liang Zhengchun and Charlotte's side to watch. What is Master Liang doing? Is he teaching that kid Wing Chun Kung Fu? Someone said. Do you need to ask? Someone said. This kid has only been here for a few days, and Master Liang is teaching him personally. I really don't know what's so good about that kid. Someone said. Good imitation. Someone said. Ha ha ha. Someone laughed. Almost everyone still thought that Xia Lei's ability to imitate was just very strong, and there was nothing great about it. Lu Shang's face became more and more gloomy, and his heart became more and more unhappy. Just now, when Liang Xiao asked Liang Zhengchun to accept Charlotte as his last disciple, Liang Zhengchun did not agree. But in less than 10 minutes, Liang Zhengchun actually personally taught Charlotte Wing Chun Kung Fu. Moreover, he found that the Wing Chun Kung Fu that Liang Zhengchun was teaching Charlotte at this moment, even he saw some moves for the first time. Humph! The more Lu Sheng looked, the angrier he became. Liang Xiao did not notice the change in Lu Sheng's mood. She looked at Charlotte, who was following his father Liang Zhengchun to play Wing Chun Kung Fu, and her eyes were full of joy and curiosity. A few minutes later, Liang Zhengchun stopped his movements, and his eyes moved to Charlotte's face, looking straight into Charlotte's eyes. Xiao Lei slumped to the ground, panting heavily. His forehead and neck were covered in sweat, and his clothes were half-drenched. Using his left eye's see-through ability continuously drained his body of too much energy, and he was exhausted after persisting for so long. When he sat on the ground, the illusion also appeared. The boxing hall turned into a kindergarten, and the walls were covered with cartoon patterns, sunflowers, red suns, bears, and so on. The surrounding students who were watching the fun also turned into cute children. They all looked at him curiously, and the little red on their foreheads was particularly eye-catching. Then he saw Yang Xiao. She was wearing open-crotch pants, and her little but was exposed. The most outrageous thing was Liang Zhengchun. He turned into a kindergarten Andy with a big black braid. Lei, are you okay? Liang Zhengchun walked to Charlotte's side. Charlotte looked like he was sick, which made him slightly nervous. Charlotte shook his head vigorously, and the illusion in front of him disappeared. He supported his body to climb up and said, I'm okay. I'm okay. I'm just a little tired. I'll be fine after a rest. Are you really okay? I'm really okay. Master Liang, you don't need to worry about me. Charlotte smiled. Thank you for teaching me Wing Chun Kung Fu. I'll learn a lot. Liang Zhengchun tentatively said, Then tell me, how much did you learn? Charlotte thought for a moment. I don't know, a little bit. Maybe a little bit more. Liang Zhengchun didn't seem satisfied with such a vague answer. His brows slightly wrinkled. Humph. Lu Sheng coldly snorted. You probably want to say that you learn a lot of things, right? Let's fight. Let me see how much you learned. This time, Liang Zhengchun and Liang Xiao didn't say anything to stop Lu Sheng. Charlotte grinned. Okay, but give me half an hour to rest. After half an hour, I'll fight you. Chapter 68. Okay, half an hour. Lu Sheng glared fiercely at Xia Lei, then turned and walked towards the wooden dummy. A student said, Brother Sheng, teach him a good lesson later. Yes, we have to teach him a good lesson. He's too pretentious, another student said. Charlotte pretended not to hear these words. He didn't care. After all, he was new here, and Lu Sheng had been here for 3 years. Of course, he had a lot of friends. Lu Sheng walked up to the wooden dummy and started hitting it. Every time he hit it, a terrifying sound would be heard. His muscles were like iron, his ligaments were like steel ropes, and his bones were like steel bars. He was strong to the limit. This was obviously to show Charlotte who was stronger. However, Charlotte didn't have any fear in his heart. He walked to the wall and sat on a chair to rest. He closed his eyes and looked like he was sleeping, but his mind kept replaying the scene of Liang Zhengchun fighting Wing Chun. His left eye provided him with the most accurate analysis of how Liang Zhengchun's bones moved and how his muscles and ligaments exerted force. He was like a sponge, absorbing the essence of these things. Drink a glass of water. A pleasant voice suddenly sounded. Charlotte opened his eyes. He saw Yang Xiao and a glass of red juice in her hand. Liang Xiao handed the glass to Charlotte. This is carrot juice. Drink it. It will help you recover your strength quickly. Thank you. Charlotte said thank you and drank the carrot juice. Liang Xiao sat next to Charlotte. Lu Sheng is very strong. Do you really want to fight with him? If you give up, I can help you talk to Lu Sheng. Charlotte said, No, I'll fight with him. It's also a good chance to test what I've learned. Then he smiled. At most, I'll be beaten up by him. I'm not afraid of pain. Well, you rest. Liang Xiao took Charlotte's empty glass and left. Half an hour passed quickly. Lu Sheng came to an open space. The students all made way and stood in a circle, waiting to watch a good show. Lu Sheng waved at Charlotte. Kid, half an hour is up. Have you rested enough? Charlotte got up and walked over. He then stood in front of Lu Sheng. After standing still, he started to ride his horse and struck the most famous starting pose of Wing Chun, the asking hand. In this starting position, there were 2 hands. One was the asking hand, which was the attacking hand. One was a guard, and the other was a guard. The probing hand and the hand guard could be switched at any time, both offensive and defensive. This was what he had learned from Liang Zhengchun half an hour ago. He really does have the demeanor of an expert. Lu Sheng said sarcastically. However, I don't need to use Wing Chun to beat you. Sanda is enough. As soon as he finished speaking, Lu Sheng suddenly leaned back and kicked Charlotte from the side. Charlotte jumped slightly and moved half a step to the side. He withdrew the probing hand and turned the hand guard into a fist. He punched the ligament between Lu Sheng's thigh and knee. With one punch, Lu Sheng stepped back 2 steps and looked at Charlotte in surprise. The ligament was punched. Although it didn't hurt him because of his thick skin, it still hurt a lot. But he didn't show it and secretly endured it. The onlookers were also surprised. When Lu Sheng kicked, almost all the students thought that Charlotte would be kicked to the ground by Lu Sheng. But in the blink of an eye, Lu Sheng was punched back by Charlotte. "Dad, it's strange." Liang Xiao, who was also watching, said to Liang Zhengchun, "Just now, I felt that you were fighting with Lu Sheng." Liang Zhengchun sighed softly. "This kid is really hard to figure out. Before, I thought he was just imitating. But now he seems to have mastered the trick of long bridge and short bridge. He is a real Wing Chun master. But don't you think it's too fast?" Long bridge and short bridge are the two ways to use force in Wing Chun. The former is a long-distance attack, while the latter is a short-distance attack. The punch that Xia Lei had used to force Lu Sheng back was the short bridge. The fact that he could force back Lu Sheng, who was much stronger than him, proved one thing. He had mastered the technique of Wing Chun and could increase his strength several times over. In the middle of the open space, Lu Sheng has stopped looking down on Charlotte. He also made a Wing Chun handguard. Charlotte suddenly rushed in front of Lu Sheng and punched toward Lu Sheng's heart. Charlotte dared to take the initiative to attack. The onlookers were shocked again. Bang, 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 bang. Lu Sheng and Charlotte were entangled together. Their attack and defense were very fast, dazzling the onlookers. The fight between the two was like a kung fu movie that was edited. It was very exciting. "Impossible. This monk has been learning for more than 3 years. He is the most powerful person here. Why can't he beat that guy?" A student said. "Yeah, did that guy really only learn for a few days? I don't believe it." A student said. "It's strange. Is that guy really a hidden master? He came here to pretend to be a pig to eat a tiger? But why?" Someone was puzzled. There was a lot of discussion. They were all surprised by Charlotte's strength and thought it was incredible. Liang Zhengchun suddenly said, "Not good. Lu Sheng is going to lose." "No way." Liang Xiao couldn't believe Liang Zhengchun's words. In the field, Charlotte suddenly cut into Lu Sheng's open space and punched Lu Sheng's heart. This punch was fast and fierce, with great strength. Lu Sheng's body that weighed at least 180 pounds was blown off the ground and then fell heavily on the ground. Charlotte took advantage of the situation and pressed Lu Sheng, who just fell to the ground with his knee. He punched Lu Sheng's face. Lu Sheng closed his eyes. Charlotte's fist stopped in front of Lu Sheng's face and didn't hit him. The whole martial arts hall was silent. It was extremely quiet. A retired Special Forces soldier who had been learning Wing Chun for more than 3 years, a professional bodyguard, was defeated by a guy who had just learned Wing Chun for a few days. Who would believe such a result? Charlotte stood up and extended a hand to Lu Sheng. Lu Sheng was stunned for a moment, but he finally grabbed Charlotte's hand and got up from the ground. "Thank you for letting me win," Charlotte said politely. Lu Sheng said, "Why are you being so polite? I lost. I didn't let you win." Charlotte smiled and extended his hand to Lu Sheng. "Let's be friends." This time, Lu Sheng didn't hesitate. He reached out and shook Charlotte's hand. Then he grinned and said, "I rarely admire people, but you are one of them." Lu Sheng was actually a straightforward person. He couldn't hide things in his heart. Once he didn't like someone, he would target that person. And once he liked someone and admired someone, that person would get his friendship. No discord, no concord. This old saying was suitable for Lu Sheng and Charlotte. Lu Sheng and Charlotte talked and laughed. On the other side, Liang Zhengchun pulled Liang Xiao to a corner where there was no one and whispered, "You asked me to accept Charlotte as my last disciple. I think it's a good idea. You go and sound him out and see what he means." Liang Xiao giggled and said, "Dad, I told you a long time ago. You found a treasure, but you didn't realize it. You go and say it. I won't go." Liang Zhengchun stared at Liang Xiao and said, "You wicked girl, are you trying to make me angry? If I go and say it, where'll I put my old face? Your father is the most orthodox successor of Wing Chun. Face is a big thing. If I say it in person and he refuses, how can I face people when the news gets out?" Liang Xiao said with a smile, "Well, leave this kind of thing to your daughter but you have to make sweet and sour pork for me. Liang Zhengchun said angrily, you only know how to eat. I don't see you gain weight. I was born with such good food. I won't gain weight no matter how much I eat. Ha! Well, I'll go and sound him out. You wait for my good news. Liang Xiao walked to Charlotte. Liang Zhengchun touched his chin and couldn't help but smile. This guy is simply a martial arts genius described in wuxia novels. If I accept him as my last disciple, we will have a very good successor of Wing Chun. Maybe it won't be strange to have another Master Yuan. Although it was now the 21st century, the inheritance of the national quintessence of Kung Fu still followed the ancient tradition. Apprenticeship was an indispensable step. Charlotte had shown amazing talent. Liang Zhengchun was moved and wanted Charlotte to be his successor, but the premise was that Charlotte had to worship him as his teacher. Charlotte, can you do me a favor? Liang Xiao interrupted the conversation between Charlotte and Lu Sheng. Of course, Charlotte asked. What can I do for you? Well, come with me. Liang Xiao didn't say what she wanted Charlotte to do for her, but she walked to a door. Charlotte followed Liang Xiao into the door. Behind the door was Liang Zhengchun's office. He sometimes lived here, so there was also a kitchen and a bedroom. Liang Xiao brought Charlotte to Liang Zhengchun's office. She smiled and said, Please sit. Charlotte said, Didn't you ask me to, I want to ask you to help me change the water bucket. Liang Xiao said. Charlotte glanced at the water dispenser in the corner. There was still a full water bucket on it. He looked at Liang Xiao, speechless. Liang Xiao laughed dryly. Oh, so you changed it. I'm sorry, I was too careless. Well, there's no need to change the water bucket. Let's talk. Please sit. Sit. I'll get you a glass of water. No need. No need. I'll just sit. Charlotte sat on a chair and curiously said, What does she want to talk to me about? She's so mysterious. Liang Xiao moved a chair and sat across from Charlotte. She stared at him. May I ask, what do you do for a living? Charlotte said, I have a studio. I process parts for some companies. It's just a small business. Have you never learned martial arts before? No. Who else is in your family? A sister. She went to the capital to study at a university. After answering this question, Charlotte suddenly smiled. Miss Liang, why are you asking these questions? If you want to say something, just say it. There's no need to beat around the bush. That if you wholeheartedly focused on learning martial arts and gave up your studio, would you be willing? Liang Xiao probed. Charlotte said, How can that be? Learning martial arts is just a hobby of mine. I don't want to achieve much in this area. My purpose in learning martial arts is to have the ability to defend myself. So it's like this. Liang Xiao's eyes showed a touch of disappointment. At this moment, Charlotte's phone suddenly rang. He took out his phone and glanced at it. It was a call from Ma Shaoan. Charlotte picked up the phone. Hello, it's me. Lazy, come back quickly. Ma Shaoan's voice was very anxious. Charlotte's heart suddenly had an ominous premonition. What happened? Someone came to smash our shop. The phone suddenly went silent. Charlotte got up and left. Miss Liang, I have something urgent to do. Let's talk next time. Hello, do you need help? Liang Xiao asked. Charlotte had already run out of the door. Chapter 69. The Wing Chun Boxing Club was not far from Lei Ma's studio, and it was a 10-minute drive. Before the car stopped, Charlotte saw a group of young people with steel pipes and baseball bats surrounding the door of Lei Ma's studio. Ma Xiao and others were guarding the studio with tools such as hammers and wrenches. The ground in front of the studio was full of bricks, rubble, and glass fragments. Obviously, there had been a conflict between the two sides. Charlotte stepped on the brakes and jumped out of the car without even pulling out the key. He walked quickly and shouted, What do you want to do? A large group of young people suddenly looked over with fierce faces. At this time, a man came out of the crowd. He was bald and wore a thick gold necklace around his neck. It was Chen Chuanhu. Oh, isn't this Charlotte Boss Xia? Chen Chuanhu said in a strange tone, A while ago, you were still moving bricks on my construction site. In the blink of an eye, you became the boss. You're good. Charlotte looked at Chen Chuanhu coldly and said, Why are you here? After Li Qinghua was arrested, Chun Chuanhu was also arrested. After that, he didn't care about them. He didn't know where they were locked up. He didn't expect that Chun Chuanhu would suddenly appear in front of him and bring a group of young people to smash his studio. Ma Xiao and others saw Charlotte appear and wanted to come out of the studio, but several young people blocked the door. Chun Chuanhu sneered, "How long do you think they can lock me up? 10 years or 8 years. You probably want me to be locked up in prison for the rest of my life. And then you don't have to pay the 10,000 yuan you owe me, right? So you're here for money?" Charlotte said. Chun Chuanhu said, "I don't care about 10,000 yuan. I win or lose a game of mahjong for 50,000 yuan. I'm here because you offended someone you shouldn't have offended. Boy, do you know who you've offended?" Charlotte thought of two people, Gu Qian and He Laoqi. However, with Gu Qian's identity, it was impossible for her to contact trash like Chun Chuanhu. If she wanted to smash his studio, she could have asked her bodyguards to do it. She didn't need to instruct Chun Chuanhu at all. If it wasn't Gu Qian, then it had to be He Laoqi. Although Chun Chuanhu was also in the underworld, in the eyes of someone like He Laoqi, he was just a small leader. It was strange that He Laoqi sent Chun Chuanhu to cause trouble. Thinking of this, Charlotte asked tentatively, "Is it He Laoqi? Damn it! How dare you call Seventh Master's name?" Chun Chuanhu waved his hand, and a group of young men suddenly rushed over and surrounded Charlotte. Ma Xiaoan and others in the studio saw that Charlotte was surrounded, so they rushed out together. The two sides immediately clashed. As a result, Zhou Xiaohong was hit in the thigh by a steel pipe and fell to the ground. A young man pointed a steel pipe at Ma Xiaoan and said fiercely, "You better behave yourself, or I'll cripple you." Except for Ma Xiaoan, the rest of the people in the studio were honest people who worked to make a living. They had never seen such a scene. They were timid and did not dare to rush out again. Charlotte said loudly, "Xiaoan, you stay inside. Don't come out." Ma Xiaoan stamped his feet angrily. "Damn it, I called the police, but they haven't come yet." "Call the police? Ha ha ha." Chun Chuanhu sneered and said, "Is the police station owned by your family? Do you think they will come just because you asked them to? Don't worry, they have already received the police call to catch the whoremaster. They won't come here for a while." Charlotte said, "It turns out that you have planned everything. Tell me, what do you want?" Chun Chuanhu said, "It's very simple. Your studio or your legs. You can choose one. You choose your legs, and I'll let my men smash your studio. You choose the studio, and I'll break your legs myself. What do you choose?" Charlotte said, "I want both. What should I do?" "I knew you would say that. That's easy. I want both." Chun Chuanhu suddenly shouted, "Go!" A group of young men rushed to Charlotte like mad dogs. Steel pipes and baseball bats hit Charlotte's body. Charlotte reached out and grabbed a steel pipe that was smashing toward his head. He used the method of moving 1,000 caddies with little effort. He immediately pushed away the steel pipe and blocked the baseball bat that hit him the next second. Then, he pulled the young man holding the steel pipe in front of him and used the young man's body to block the steel pipe that was attacking him from behind. As soon as the attack behind him collapsed, Charlotte suddenly stepped forward and punched a young man in the heart. The young man who was punched screamed and squatted on the ground while clutching his heart. Charlotte stepped forward and stepped on the shoulder of the young man who was punched in the heart. Then he used the force to jump up and kick a young man to the ground. Bang, bang, bang. Bang, bang, bang. Charlotte moved left and right like a fish in the water. Wherever he went, the young men were beaten by him and fell to the ground with bruises and swollen faces. It should have been a scene of a group fight, but it was reversed and became a group fight. Although Chun Chuanhu brought a group of young men, these people usually fought a lot, but they bullied ordinary people. Charlotte was the first one who knew Kung Fu. Charlotte was able to knock down Lu Sheng, a retired Special Forces soldier who had practiced Wing Chun for more than 3 years. These young men were no match for him at all. What's more, there were many people on the other side, but no one could be faster than his left eye. Bang! With a long bridge jab, a young man in front of Chun Chuanhu was hit in the lower abdomen. He covered his stomach and squatted on the ground. Xiaolei reached out and grabbed his hair, pressing the young man's head against his knee. Bang! There was another muffled sound. and the young man, whose face was covered in blood, fell to the ground. He covered his face and rolled on the ground, wailing. He couldn't be soft-hearted to these people. They were ruthless, so he would be more ruthless than them. The other side came to make trouble. If he didn't beat them until they were afraid, they would never stop in the future. Chun Chuanhu looked at Charlotte dumbfounded, and a cold sweat appeared on his forehead. The Charlotte he knew was not the Charlotte in front of him. During his time in prison, Charlotte seemed to have changed into a different person. Chun Chuanhu's remaining men were only a few young men who blocked the door of Lema's studio. They also looked at Charlotte with horrified eyes and the large number of companions who fell to the ground behind Charlotte. In their imagination, Charlotte should be beaten half to death like a dog, but Charlotte was standing in front of them. Charlotte walked towards Chun Chuanhu. His eyes were cold. Chun Chuanhu hurriedly retreated and shouted, "Damn it! What are you waiting for? Go get him!" A young man braced himself and rushed forward. He raised the baseball bat in his hand and hit Charlotte's head. A second later, he fell to the ground, and the baseball bat also fell to the ground. There was a size 41 footprint on his crotch. His tool for carrying on the family line could not be used normally for at least a month. "You go." Chun Chuanhu grabbed the arm of a young man and pushed him towards Charlotte. Charlotte raised his hand, and the steel pipe that the young man had just raised fell to the ground with a clang. He turned around and ran away. The remaining two young men looked at each other, suddenly threw away the weapons in their hands at the same time, and ran away. The money Chun Chuanhu gave them was just for smoking, drinking, and going to the internet cafe. This money was not enough for them to work for Chun Chuanhu. Now, only Chun Chuanhu was left. He also retreated to the door of Lema's studio. Behind him was a group of angry employees of Lema's studio. They were holding wrenches and hammers in their hands. They could hit him at any time. There was a pack of wolves behind him and a tiger in front of him. Chun Chuanhu had no way to retreat. Damn it! Ma Xiaoan had always remembered Chun Chuanhu's hatred. He cursed and raised a wrench in his hand to hit the back of Chun Chuanhu's head. Charlotte took a step forward and kicked out. His foot brushed Chun Chuanhu's cheek, and he kicked the wrench in Ma Xiaoan's hand away. "Lei, Ma Xiaoan didn't understand why Charlotte did this. Charlotte said, "This is between me and him. Don't interfere." He didn't let Ma Xiaoan do it. Otherwise, the people of Lema's studio would do it. He didn't want them to become enemies with people like Chun Chuanhu. They were all ordinary people. They had old people and young children. If Chun Chuanhu retaliated against them in the future, they couldn't afford it. This was also the reason why he asked Ma Xiaoan to stay in the studio at the beginning. He wanted to bear such a thing alone. Chun Chuanhu froze for a moment and suddenly laughed. "You don't dare to hit me? You're afraid of my revenge." Before he finished speaking, Charlotte slapped him in the face. Slap! With a frightening crisp sound, Chun Chuanhu staggered and fell to the ground. Charlotte kicked Chun Chuanhu's lower abdomen. Chun Chuanhu screamed again and curled up like a shrimp. "Xiaoan, call the police again," Charlotte said. Ma Xiaoan followed him to find his cell phone, only to find that the screen of his cell phone had been smashed by a young man with a steel pipe. Cui Yong then took out his cell phone and dialed 110. Charlotte squatted beside Chun Chuanhu and reached out to grab Chun Chuanhu's hair. "Chun Chuanhu, you just said that I dare not hit you, right?" "I slapped." Charlotte didn't give Chun Chuanhu a chance to speak and slapped him in the face. 2 slaps, one on each side of the face. Chun Chuanhu's round face became rounder and more fleshy. "Tell me, who sent you here?" Charlotte said. "It's..." Chun Chuanhu suddenly reached out to cover his face, fearing that Charlotte would slap him again. This time, Charlotte didn't slap Chun Chuanhu. Although he guessed that it was Lao-Chi, it was only a guess. He wanted to get the correct answer. "Say it." Charlotte raised his hand. "It's me." Chun Chuanhu didn't know why he suddenly became unreasonable. "It's me. What can you do to me? Beat me to death? Come on, do you dare to beat me to death?" Charlotte suddenly reached out and used his fingers to grab the bottom rib of Chun Chuanhu's chest, and then pulled it up. "Ah!" Chun Chuanhu suddenly screamed. Charlotte didn't stop. He continued to pull the rib up. Chun Chuanhu was in so much pain that he was sweating and his face was pale. He endured for less than 10 seconds before he collapsed and wailed. It's He Lao-Chi. Sure enough, it was He Lao-Chi. Charlotte loosened Chun Chuanhu's rib and looked at Chen Chuanhu, who was curled up on the ground like a dog. He didn't feel any joy in his heart. Last time, after Lin Bowen and Lin Yaru came to Thunder Horse Studio to find trouble, he was worried that Gu Qian and He Lao-Chi would come to find trouble with him. Therefore, he went to Liang Zhengchuan's Wing Chun dojo to learn Wing Chun. Now it seems that this was a very wise decision. If he didn't learn the essence of Wing Chun Kung Fu and didn't suddenly increase his strength, the one lying on the ground and wailing at this moment would be him. However, Chun Chuanhu was just a small character after all. The real big characters haven't appeared yet. Old Seven and Gu Qian. Regardless of which one it was, both of them brought him an unprecedented amount of pressure. In such a situation, how could he be happy? The police finally arrived, asked about the situation, and took Chen Chuanhu and the injured young people to the police car. However, Charlotte could guess the ending. In less than half a month, people like Chen Chuanhu would walk on a certain street like a crab. Chapter 70. Charlotte also went to the police station. Although it was self-defense, the whole story had to be explained clearly. Who was responsible had to be identified. There also needed to be a preliminary result of the matter. Those who should be sent to the hospital should be sent to the hospital, and those who should be detained should be detained. These all took time. When he came out of the police station, it was already a little late. Charlotte didn't go home directly. Instead, he drove to Lema's studio. Lema's studio was not closed, and the lights were still on. When Charlotte got out of the car, he saw Zhou Xiaohong, who was cleaning the trash in the studio. There was a large pile of bricks and rubble beside the trash can on the side of the road, as well as some smashed things and glass fragments. Under the light, Zhou Xiaohong was carefully cleaning the floor of the studio with a broom and a dustpan. When she was standing, there was nothing wrong with her, but when she moved, she was limping. Charlotte suddenly remembered that she had been hit in the thigh by a young man with a steel pipe. He couldn't help but worry. He quickly walked into the studio and said with concern, "Xiaohong, your leg is injured. Why are you still working?" It wasn't until Charlotte spoke that Zhou Xiaohong realized that Charlotte had come. She quickly put down the broom and dustpan. "Brother Charlotte, you're here." "I'm fine. I'll get you a glass of water." Charlotte grabbed her and pressed her down on a chair. "You sit down, I'm not thirsty. You take a rest, and I'll clean." Zhou Xiaohong followed and said, "How can I do that? I should do this kind of rough work." She was about to stand up, but Charlotte pressed her down again. He said with a smile, "What kind of work haven't I done? I used to be like you. As long as I can make money, I would do any dirty work. You sit down, and I'll clean, or I'll be angry with you." This trick worked. Zhou Xiaohong became obedient. She sat in the chair motionlessly and watched Charlotte clean. In fact, before Charlotte came, Zhou Xiaohong had almost finished cleaning. There were only a few corners left. Charlotte used 10 minutes to clean them. Charlotte came to Zhou Xiaohong's side and gently asked, "Xiaohong, have you seen a doctor?" Zhou Xiaohong shook her head. "I didn't go to see a doctor. Hospitals in big cities are very expensive." She smiled embarrassedly. "I didn't want to spend that money." Charlotte frowned. "You fool. Is money more important than people? If your injuries are serious and you delay treatment, you'll lose your life. Why would you want money then?" "Living for my parents and studying for my younger brother." Zhou Xiaohong appeared to be very cheerful. "Can't you think for yourself?" "I'm fine, Brother Lazy. I'm really—" At this point, Zhou Xiaohong moved a little and pulled the injury on her leg. It was so painful that she couldn't speak. Charlotte nervously said, "What's wrong? Does it hurt a lot?" Zhou Xiaohong wanted to deny it, but when she opened her mouth, it turned into a moan of pain. "No, I'll take you to the hospital," Charlotte said. "No, I'm really—" Ouch! Zhou Xiaohong seemed to be in more pain. Charlotte didn't care too much. He looked at Zhou Xiaohong's left leg that was hit by the steel pipe. The layer of blue overalls instantly disappeared. A full and round thigh was suddenly exposed to his left eye. Zhou Xiaohong's left leg near the root was red and swollen. The area that was hit by the steel pipe was broken. The wound was red, and there were obvious signs of inflammation. Looking at it, Charlotte frowned even more. Such an injury was not dangerous, but if it was not treated, it was likely to be inflamed, ulcerated, or even festered. The most dangerous and worst situation could happen, which was muscle necrosis and tetanus. You're hurt so badly, and you say it's not serious? Charlotte reproached. You didn't see where I was hurt. How do you know? Zhou Xiaohong looked at Charlotte curiously. Charlotte realized that he had let the cat out of the bag. He said, "You look so painful, I can guess." "Well, it's late now, and the surgeons are probably off work. I'll go to the pharmacy to buy some hydrogen peroxide and gauze to help you deal with it. Well, there's also amoxicillin. You have to take some anti-inflammatory medicine." Zhou Xiaohong was even more curious. "Brother Lei Zi, how do you know about this?" "Of course, I learned it from books. You should read more books and learn more useful knowledge." "Well, wait for me. I'll go to the pharmacy nearby to buy medicine for you." Charlotte left Lei Ma's studio and went to the nearest pharmacy. His medical knowledge was indeed learned from books, but it was only some simple medical knowledge. He didn't want to be a doctor, and he didn't have the qualifications to do so in reality, so he didn't go deep into it. Nowadays, all kinds of medicine were sold in pharmacies. You could buy the medicine you needed with money and a card. Charlotte quickly bought the medicine he needed, but when he returned to Lei Ma's studio, Zhou Xiaohong was gone. Charlotte came to the door of the inner room and said, "Little Hong, are you inside?" "Well, I'm here. Come in." Zhou Xiaohong's voice was a little strange. Charlotte pushed the door and walked in. The small, narrow room was dimly lit. Zhou Xiaohong was lying on the simple steel wire bed. A thin blanket covered her legs, but her exposed feet were smooth and pleasant without socks. Under the light, her face was red, and she looked very shy and nervous. The scene in front of him made Charlotte slightly stunned. He, who was holding a big bag of medicine, didn't know what to do. "Brother Lei Zi, you said you want to help me deal with the wound. I think I can't take off my pants outside and let you treat me, right? So I came in." The more Zhou Xiaohong said, the redder her face became. When she finished, there was no skin on her face that wasn't red. Only then did Charlotte come back to his senses. He coughed and then came to the steel wire bed. The mountain girl was shy, so of course, she couldn't take off her pants outside. So, when she entered the room and took off her pants, the patient was ready to receive treatment. What else could he do as a doctor? Xiaolei gently removed the blanket covering her legs, and a pair of white and tender legs entered his line of sight without any concealment. The wound on her left leg was very eye-catching, and the wound was not in the right place. It was almost close to her briefs. His eyes fell on her wound, but he couldn't avoid seeing the mature part. He was a little embarrassed. He regretted saying that he would help her deal with the wound. He should have taken her to the hospital, which was the right thing to do. How embarrassing was this? Brother Lei Zi? Zhou Xiaohong's neck was red. She suspected that Charlotte was peeking at her private part. I'm sorry. I was thinking about how to deal with it." Charlotte said awkwardly. "Have you thought about it?" Zhou Xiaohong's mouth showed a trace of smile. She actually didn't mind. Okay. Charlotte took out a bottle of hydrogen peroxide and sprayed it on Zhou Xiaohong's wound. The white hydrogen peroxide wet Zhou Xiaohong's thigh, wet her wound, and wet her clothes. Ouch, it hurts. The hydrogen peroxide penetrated her flesh. Zhou Xiaohong's tears came out in pain. "You're an adult, and you're still afraid of pain? Bear with it. It'll be fine soon." Charlotte comforted her while using a cotton swab to clean her wound. Zhou Xiaohong clenched her teeth. With tears in her eyes, she looked at Charlotte treating her wound. Her heart was touched. After cleaning the wound, Charlotte sprinkled some white powder on her wound. Then, he used gauze to wrap her wound and her thigh. When he was tying the gauze, he used a little bit of strength. As a result, the flesh of her thighs sunk in, revealing a gap in the cloth in that instant. Both of them fell silent, and the atmosphere became strange. Okay, I'm going back. You rest. I'll give you a few days off. You can work after you've recovered." Charlotte said. He didn't dare to stay in this place any longer. "Brother Lei Zi, I can work. Really, I don't need a vacation." Zhou Xiaohong was a little anxious. Charlotte pulled the blanket over and covered her body. Then, he patted her shoulder. You don't listen to me again? Rest. The days will always get better. Charlotte left. Zhou Xiaohong covered the blanket and giggled. The days will always get better. Every time she heard Charlotte say this to her, she felt very happy. Pulling up the shutter door, Charlotte got in the car and drove in the direction of his home. However, at an intersection, he suddenly changed his mind. He turned the car and drove in the direction of Beauty Salon. Chen Chuanhu was sent by He Laoqi. Chen Chuanhu was detained. Would He Laoqi just let it go? In the eyes of He Laoqi, I'm probably just an unremarkable nobody. But today, I injured so many of Chen Chuanhu's men. Will he still treat me as a nobody? When he attacks me again, will he still send trash like Chen Chuanhu? Definitely not. He wants to mess with me, but I don't even know his background. This won't do. While driving, Charlotte thought about these things in his heart. Regarding He Laoqi, he only knew one name so far. This was definitely not enough. Who is He Laoqi? Where does he live? Who are the people around him? Charlotte wanted to figure out these questions, but he couldn't just find someone on the street to ask these questions. After thinking about it, only Qin Xiang was the most suitable. Charlotte had been to Qin Xiang's beauty salon once. Although he found it by chance, he remembered the route very clearly. Half an hour later, the Polo he was driving quietly approached Beauty's beauty salon. When he was 500 meters away from beauty salon, he stopped the car, then poked his head out of the window and looked at the situation at beauty salon from afar. The distance of 500 meters was only a blur for the vision of ordinary people, but for Charlotte, it was as if it was 5 meters away. He could clearly see everything within 500 meters. Even the beauty products in Beauty Mart's display window could be clearly seen by him. Soon, Charlotte saw Qin Xiang. He was doing a woman's hair. His partner, Alan, was trimming the woman's nails. The three people were talking and laughing. The woman was obviously an old customer of Qin Xiang. Charlotte covered his right eye, increased the vision of his left eye, and then locked on Qin Xiang's lips. The movement of Qin Xiang's lips immediately entered his vision, and it was very clear. Sister Hua, I'm not praising you, but your skin is really good. It's much better than my skin. If you remove the bags under your eyes, you'll be 5 years younger. Your husband will definitely pounce on you like a wolf. Qin Xiang said something to please the customer, and then said, I just got a batch of beauty product from Korea. Do you want to try it? At this point, Charlotte let go of his hand that was covering his right eye. He was too lazy to continue reading. He also let his left eye return to its normal state so that it could rest. In this case, it was useless to monitor Qin Xiang. He had to find another opportunity. Chapter 71. The woman left the salon after finishing her hair. She should be Qin Xiang's last customer for the day. After she left, Qin Xiang closed the door. Xiang, are you going home or to the hospital? Lan asked. I'm going to hospital to see my mother, and then I'll go back, Qin Xiang said. Have you collected enough for the operation? Lan asked again. Qin Xiang frowned. I'm still a little short, but I'll think of a way. Don't worry about it. Go back and come back tomorrow morning to open the salon. Okay, goodbye. Lan left on an electric scooter. Qin Xiang also got on his Yamaha and drove to the left side of the road. A red Polo followed, and the distance of a few hundred meters was covered in the blink of an eye. It also drove to the left side of the road and shortened the distance between it and the Yamaha. Although the distance was shortened, Charlotte still kept the distance between the Polo and the Yamaha at about 200 meters and followed from a distance. Qin Xiang was a cat burglar. He was very vigilant and far more experienced than ordinary people. It was not easy to follow him. After about 10 kilometers, Qin Xiang came to a hospital. There was a sign hanging on the big gate of the hospital, which said Haizhu City, Springfield Hospital. Charlotte had heard of this hospital. It was a private hospital, and the fees were much more expensive than public hospitals, but the service was much better than public hospitals. He did not drive into the hospital. When Qin Xiang stopped the motorcycle and walked to the hospital building, he also parked the car next to the gate, and then got off and entered the hospital. Qin Xiang walked into the hospital hall, and a little girl in a nurse's uniform greeted her from afar, Sister Qin, you're here. What gift did you bring this time? No, next time. I'll buy you delicious food next time. Qin Xiang said with a smile. You little greedy cat. The nurse pursed her lips. Then can you help me with my hair later? The nurse was difficult to deal with, but Qin Xiang remained polite. He said, come to my shop tomorrow, and I'll do it for you. It's free, okay? Sure, Sister Qin, you're so nice. The young nurse smiled. Qin Xiang walked through the lobby and entered the elevator. Charlotte walked into the lobby and watched the numbers jump by the elevator door. The elevator stopped on the 5th floor. Charlotte walked to the reception desk and said with a smile, Miss Nurse, has Qin Xiang been here? You know Qin Xiang? The nurse looked at Charlotte with a strange look. Charlotte nodded. Yeah, we're friends. Can you tell me if he came? I called his phone, but he turned it off. I have something important to discuss with him. The nurse said he wanted to see his mother. He's in room 201 on the 5th floor. You can find him there. Charlotte said, thank you. By the way, what's wrong with his mother? I've asked him, but he never told me. The nurse said his mother has uterine cancer. She needs chemotherapy and then surgery. After a pause, she said, you should comfort him. This kind of disease can be cured if it's treated in time, but the cost is a little high. How much will it cost? Charlotte asked casually. $500,000, the nurse said. Oh, thank you. I'll go up first. Charlotte left the reception desk. The nurse watched Charlotte walk into the elevator and said to herself, such a handsome man is with Qin Xiang. What's wrong with this world? Fortunately, Charlotte didn't hear this sentence. Otherwise, his back would be covered with goosebumps. Out of the elevator, there was a corridor in front of him. There were wards on both sides of the corridor. The fluorescent lights above cast a cold light. There was no one here. It was particularly deserted, and there was a gloomy atmosphere everywhere. Charlotte soon found room 201. The door of the ward was closed, but this was not an obstacle at all. His left eye twitched slightly, and the scene in the ward came into his sight. There were 3 beds in the ward. 2 were occupied, and 1 was empty. A female patient, about 50 years old, was lying on the bed near the door. She was holding a glass of water and drinking. A woman was lying on the bed under the innermost window of the ward. She looked young, about 40 years old, but she was lying on the bed motionless. Qin Xiang stood by the bed under the window and looked at the female patient. The female patient was obviously his mother. Qin Xiang, your mother just fell asleep, the female patient said. Auntie Zhao, how is my mother today? Qin Xiang's voice was softer than a woman's. The female patient called Auntie Zhao said, not very good. She is very worried about her illness. You should actually talk to your mother and enlighten her more. This kind of illness needs to be faced with an optimistic attitude. If she is worried and afraid every day, her illness will worsen. Qin Xiang said, I will enlighten her. You should spend more time with your mother. Your hair salon should be closed for a while. Your mother doesn't even have someone to accompany her here. How can she be in a good mood? Qin Xiang's face had a touch of shame. He said, it costs so much money to treat her. If I don't make money, how can I treat my mother? Alas, the female patient called Auntie Zhao sighed, put down the glass, and went to bed. Seeing this, Charlotte let his left eye return to normal. He reached out and pushed the door of the ward open. When Qin Xiang saw Charlotte appear at the door, his face suddenly changed. Then he walked towards Charlotte, his eyes full of anger. Charlotte took 2 steps back and stood against the wall of the corridor. Qin Xiang walked out of the ward and reached out to close the door. He suddenly turned around and kicked Charlotte's chest. Charlotte stretched out his hand and easily resolved Qin Xiang's attack. Then he grabbed Qin Xiang's ankle and pulled forward. Qin Xiang was suddenly pulled to the wall and almost hit it. Qin Xiang looked at Charlotte in surprise. He couldn't understand why Charlotte suddenly became so powerful. However, his surprise was covered by his anger in the blink of an eye. He hit Charlotte's face with his backhand. Xiaolei raised his hand to hold onto Qin Xiang's elbow and used force to neutralize Qin Xiang's attack once again. After that, he took a step back and said, if you want to fight, I'll accompany you. Let's fight outside. This is the hospital, and your mother is still in the ward. Do you want to wake her up and let her see us fighting? This sentence was very effective. Qin Xiang suddenly calmed down and stopped fighting, but his eyes were still full of anger. Bastard! How dare you come here? What do you want? Charlotte said, let's talk somewhere else. Qin Xiang hesitated for a moment, and finally followed Charlotte to the stairwell. Charlotte stopped in the stairwell and went straight to the point. Do you know Qin Chuanhu? Qin Xiang said, I've heard of him, but I'm not familiar with him. Charlotte said, today he Lao-Chi sent him to smash my shop. Qin Xiang sneered, I'm not surprised at all. You should have known what will happen to you if you go against the Lao-Chi. What's more, you have offended Gu Qian, who is more terrible than Lao-Chi. Why, your shop was smashed, wasn't it? I've heard that Chun Chuanhu has a lot of underlings. Charlotte shook his head. Chun Chuanhu was detained, and his underlings are lying in the hospital. My shop is still fine. What? Qin Xiang looked at Charlotte in surprise. Charlotte said, I came here to find you to find out something about He Lao-Chi. Where does he live? Before Charlotte finished speaking, Qin Xiang interrupted Charlotte. You can go now. I won't tell you anything about He Lao-Chi. I'm also warning you. If you follow me or come here to harass my mother again, I'll kill you. Charlotte was not scared by her. He said lightly, this time He Lao-Chi sent Qin Chuanhu. Maybe it will be you next time. You have plenty of opportunities to fight with me. I'll let you go last time, but I won't be so kind next time. It was difficult for him to beat Qin Xiang in the past, but now his strength was not the same as before. Qin Xiang was no match for him at all, which could be seen from the fight just now. Qin Xiang's face was cloudy. Charlotte said, I know He Lao-Chi has something on you. If he continues to ask you to work for him, you can't refuse him at all. Last time, you were lucky enough to escape, and I didn't report you. But next time, I'll make sure you won't be able to return. If you go to jail or die, what will happen to your mother? Qin Xiang gritted her teeth and said, I'm warning you. Don't threaten me with my mother. Be smart. Charlotte said sternly, have you ever thought that if He Lao-Chi can threaten you with something on you once, he can threaten you a second time, a third time, until you're dead? Do you want to live in his shadow for the rest of your life? Until you're killed or caught by the police one day? Qin Xiang was silent. Charlotte had poked his sore spot. He Lao-Chi wants to kill me. He and I are sworn enemies. Haven't you heard of the saying that the enemy of my enemy is my friend? Charlotte said, what do you mean? Xiao Lei said, if you help me, I'll destroy He Lao-Chi and destroy the evidence he has on you. What do you think? Qin Xiang suddenly laughed. You want to destroy He Lao-Chi? Don't be ridiculous. Charlotte said, you can laugh at me for overestimating myself, but I'm actually giving you a chance. Even if you don't help me, I can get what I want from other channels. And you will become his cannon fodder until you're played to death by him. That's all I've said. You're on your own. After that, he walked down the stairs. Wait. Qin Xiang suddenly stopped him and said, give me 200,000 yuan, and I'll deal with him with you. 200,000 yuan? Charlotte was stunned for a moment. Qin Xiang said, I urgently need this money for my mother's chemotherapy. I've sold all the things I can sell, but I still can't get enough for the treatment. Give me 200,000 yuan, and I'll help you deal with He Lao-Chi. 200,000 is not a small amount. What can you do for me if you want 200,000? Charlotte had more than 6 million yuan in his hands. It was no problem for him to take out 200,000 yuan, but he was going to use that money to open a company. Moreover, he was not the kind of rich man who could give people 200,000 yuan casually. Qin Xiang looked at Charlotte and said, what do you want me to do for you? This sentence was a hint that he could do anything for Charlotte. Charlotte secretly said in his heart, he has done something for He Lao-Chi, so he should know He Lao-Chi very well. Maybe he also knows He Lao-Chi's weakness, something that can't be exposed. Although 200,000 yuan is a bit much, it's acceptable, not to mention that this money is for his mother's treatment. Think about it. You know where to find me. Qin Xiang said and then turned to leave. Wait. This time it was Charlotte who stopped him. Deal. I'll give you the money tomorrow. Where shall we meet? Wait for my call, Qin Xiang said. A smile appeared on his face. It was a very charming look. How do you have my phone number? I know what brand of underwear you wear. What's so strange about knowing your phone number? Qin Xiang said. Charlotte was speechless. Chapter 72. The next day, Charlotte withdrew 200,000 yuan from the bank and took the money to Lema's studio. The staff of Lema's studio had already begun to work. Although it was only a small business, they did it very seriously. Zhou Xiaohong really didn't listen to him and took a break. She took a paintbrush and an iron ruler and drew on the steel plate for Ma Xiaoan and others so that they could cut and take the material and save time. Seeing her serious look, Charlotte accidentally remembered the scene of dressing her wound last night. Her snow-white and delicate thigh, the crack because of the bandaging. I really have to find a woman. It's really not good to be so sensitive all the time. Charlotte shook his head and smiled bitterly to drive away the charming picture in his mind. It was not the first time that he had the idea of finding a woman, but it seemed to be just a mantra of his. It was easier said than done to find a woman he loved and be with her. Then, he inexplicably thought of Shinda Tianin, the woman who was high and mighty like the queen of the empire. He smiled bitterly again and said secretly in his heart, I often think of her inexplicably. Is she the woman I want? Are you kidding me? I really don't know the immensity of heaven and earth. Zhou Xiaohong was the first to see Charlotte enter the studio. She stood up from the ground and said, Brother Lei Zi, I'll make you a cup of tea. Charlotte said, Didn't I tell you to rest? Why are you working again? Zhou Xiaohong smiled and said, It's nothing. I didn't do any hard work. I just drew some patterns. It's no different from resting. Be careful. Don't hurt yourself again. Charlotte said, Okay. Zhou Xiaohong responded and went to make tea for Charlotte. Ma Xiaoan and others greeted Charlotte, and Charlotte also smiled and said hello to them. What happened yesterday must have affected them, but life was life. They were the kind of people who needed to earn money to support their families. Work was the most important thing, and they didn't care about anything else. Zhou Xiaohong made tea for Charlotte and went back to drawing on the steel plate. Before Charlotte could take a sip of tea, his phone rang. The call was from Qin Xiang. His voice was soft and sharp, and he sounded like a sissy. Charlotte, I'll be waiting for you at Jushan Garden Tea House. Okay, I'll be right there. Charlotte hung up the phone and walked out. Ma Xiaoan came over and grabbed Charlotte's hand. He lowered his voice and said, Lei, what are you doing? Charlotte said, Nothing. Ma Xiaoan said, If you have any problems, you must tell me. If there's anything, we'll face it together. Charlotte said with a smile, I'm really fine. Just help me manage the studio. I've actually been busy with the registration of the company these days. In the future, we won't just be a studio. Ma Xiaoan was stunned for a moment and said in surprise, Really? That's great. You have to be a workshop director for me, or I won't let you off. Charlotte laughed and said, Is that all you've got? Are you satisfied with being a workshop director? I'll be a vice president for you. Ma Xiaoan shook his head and said, I'm not that kind of material. I can't do it. I'll be a workshop director. Charlotte patted Ma Xiaoan's shoulder and said, Don't tell them about it. It's not too late to tell them when there's some progress. Otherwise, people will laugh at you if you don't get it done. I know. Don't worry. I won't tell them. I'm not a big mouth. Ma Xiaoan said. Charlotte nodded and left the studio. Ma Xiaoan sent Charlotte out of the studio. He turned back and laughed. You know what? Lei is going to open a company. In the future, we'll all be the founders and veterans of the company. There was a sudden cheer in Lei Ma's studio. It was very lively. Sitting in the shabby polo car, Charlotte looked at Ma Xiaoan and the others cheering. He shook his head and drove into the driveway to Jushan Garden. He didn't tell the truth to Ma Xiaoan, but it was for Ma Xiaoan's own good. It was a very dangerous thing to deal with Ilauchi. He didn't want Ma Xiaoan to get involved. In this way, it was good to deceive him. It was just a white lie. Before he arrived at Jushan Garden, Charlotte received another phone call. This phone call was not from Qin Xiang, but from a strange number. Hello, Mr. Xiao. It was a woman's voice. The voice was soft and beautiful. It's me. May I ask who you are? Charlotte couldn't tell whose voice it was. He was also a little curious. The woman said, Can't you tell my voice? I'm Liang Xiao. Do you remember me? Oh, it's Miss Liang. Of course I remember. Hello. What's the matter? Charlotte was surprised that Liang Xiao would call him. Liang Xiao said, Nothing. I just wanted to ask why you didn't come to the boxing club to practice today. Charlotte said, I'm sorry. There's something urgent in the studio today. I can't leave. I'll come tomorrow. Well, okay. By the way, did you think about what I mentioned to you yesterday? Liang Xiao said. Charlotte remembered that before he left the Wing Chun boxing club yesterday, Liang Xiao called him to Liang Jingchun's office and asked him to consider giving up the studio and concentrate on learning Wing Chun boxing. This seemed to be the real purpose of Liang Xiao's call. He thought for a moment and said, "This is not a small matter. How about this, Miss Liang? Let me think about it. We'll talk about it later, okay?" "Well, okay. I won't bother you. See you tomorrow," Liang Xiao said. "Goodbye, Miss Liang." Charlotte hung up the phone. He said that he would consider it, but it was just polite words. He never thought about becoming a real martial arts practitioner. Charlotte was no stranger to Jisan Garden. He followed Li Qinghua in Jisan Garden and then filmed a video to force Chen Chuanhu to submit. That was also the first time he used the ability of X-ray vision to solve trouble. Walking into the hall, Charlotte soon found Qin Xiang in a private room. What made him a little speechless was that Qin Xiang was wearing a pair of women's pencil pants with a hollow t-shirt. The two small red spots on his smooth chest were particularly eye-catching. With such an outfit and a beautiful face that was more feminine than a woman, he was really a demon-like existence. Charlotte withdrew his gaze and entered the private room where Qin Xiang was. Qin Xiang glanced at the bulging purse in Charlotte's hand. "You really brought money." Charlotte sat across from Qin Xiang and put the purse on the coffee table. "Have you ever thought that if I take your money but don't help you, wouldn't your money be wasted?" Qin Xiang said. Charlotte pushed the purse in front of Qin Xiang and said lightly, "Since I promised you 200,000, I'm not afraid of you cheating my money. In fact, if this money wasn't for your mother's treatment, I wouldn't give it to you. If you want to cheat me, you could take the money and leave now. I won't stop you." Qin Xiang opened the zipper of the purse and glanced at it. Without saying anything, she picked up the purse and walked out. Charlotte just sat there and didn't even look at Qin Xiang. When she walked to the door of the private room, Qin Xiang suddenly turned back. He sat down on the sofa with a smile on his face. "You're really calm. Aren't you worried that I'll take your money for nothing?" Charlotte said, "If you really do that, then you're an incurable fool. I'm helping you, not taking advantage of you." Qin Xiang pursed her lips and smiled. "You're really a special person. Thank you for your money. It's really important to me. Take it to treat your mother's illness. She's the one who needs the money the most," said Charlotte. "Don't worry about that. This money is for my mother's life. I won't use it indiscriminately." After a pause, Qin Xiang said, "I thought about it all night last night. I think very clearly. We are indeed in the same boat. I'll help you. What do you want to do?" Charlotte said, "Tell me about He Laoqi first. I want to know him first." "He's a dog raised by the Gu family," said Qin Xiang. Charlotte was a little surprised. He thought that He Laoqi only accepted Gu Qian's money to do things, but he didn't expect He Laoqi to have such a relationship with the Gu family. Qin Xiang continued, "To talk about He Laoqi, we have to start with the Gu family. I think you also know that the Gu family is a big family in the capital. The North Group, operated by the Gu family, has a market value of tens of billions and involves a wide range of fields. But you don't know that the Gu family actually made its fortune here. Gu Qian's grandfather is actually a gangster. The original capital of the Gu family is not clean. The people of the Gu family have always been cruel and merciless. None of the business competitors of the Gu family have a good ending. No one is afraid of the Gu family." Charlotte thought of Lu Ying. She was also a victim of the Gu family's capital expansion. In the past, he didn't understand why a rich young lady like Gu Qian would use such despicable means to rob Lu Ying's company and patent. After listening to Qin Xiang's words, he understood. A gangster who climbed to the top by stepping on other people's corpses. Would his descendants be good people? Qin Xiang said again. He Laoqi's father was one of Gu Dingshan's men. Later, he took a bullet for Gu Dingshan and died. From then on, He Laoqi became a dog of the Gu family and worked for the Gu family. With the Gu family as his backing, no one dared not to give He Laoqi some face in the land of Haizhu. He was also unscrupulous in this land and did a lot of things to bully people. Many people were angry with him but they didn't dare to say anything. Charlotte said, "He has been evil for so many years. The police can't do anything to him?" Qin Xiang smiled bitterly and said, "The police have to have evidence to arrest people. How can they arrest him without evidence? He Laoqi is very cunning. If he wants to do something bad, he never does it himself. It's all done by his men. Just like me. He has something on me. He asked me to steal Lu Ying's patent, so I had to do it. If I was arrested, would I dare to say that he ordered me to do it?" He Laoqi's style seemed to have been learned from the Gu family. If Gu Qian wanted to do something bad, she would ask He Laoqi to do it. She would not have any trouble herself. Charlotte was silent for a moment and then said, "What exactly does he have on you?" Qin Xiang looked at Charlotte and observed something. Charlotte smiled and said, "We're friends now, right? If you don't believe me, you don't have to tell me." Qin Xiang sighed and said, "It's better that you know than He Laoqi." After a pause, she said, "I am a thief. 2 years ago, I robbed a gold shop. Before I did it, I didn't know that it was He Laoqi's gold shop. The process of my crime was captured by a well-hidden surveillance camera. Although I was masked, he still had the ability to find me. But he didn't call the police. Instead, he gave me a copy of the video. Since then, if he wanted to steal something, he asked me to steal it for him. You're so good at martial arts. Have you ever thought of stealing that video?" Qin Xiang smiled bitterly and said, "What's the use of stealing it? If he knew it was me, he would have asked someone to kill me. It's better to be alive than to be used by him. Where does he live?" Qin Xiang didn't say anything. Instead, she took out a piece of printed paper from a fancy shoulder bag and handed it to Charlotte. Charlotte looked at it. It was written with He Laoqi's home address, family names, ages, and the details of several bodyguards. It was very detailed. "How do you want to deal with him?" Qin Xiang asked tentatively. "I don't have a plan yet. Let's leave it at that for now. If I need your help, I will contact you." Charlotte put away the printed paper. "Okay, I'm going to the hospital to pay. Goodbye." Qin Xiang took her bag and left. Charlotte was still sitting in the private room, lost in thought. He Laoqi was actually a dog of the Gu family. The two of them were equivalent to one. How could they fight? Chapter 73. Although he knew He Laoqi's home address and the situation of his family, Charlotte still didn't have a way to deal with He Laoqi. He couldn't sneak into He Laoqi's home and kill him. Could he? He couldn't kidnap He Laoqi's son who was still in junior high school. Could he? He wasn't a bad person, so he couldn't do such a thing. He once thought of sneaking into He Laoqi's home and stealing He Laoqi's criminal evidence, but Qin Xiang said that He Laoqi never did anything himself when he did bad things. In such a situation, how likely was it that he could steal He Laoqi's criminal evidence? However, it wasn't like he didn't gain anything this time. Becoming friends with Qin Xiang was also a kind of gain. The first step to deal with He Laoqi was taken. After sitting in the private room for a while, Charlotte paid the bill and left Jahan Garden. He drove back to Lima's studio. As soon as he got out of the car, Charlotte saw two strangers in the studio, talking with Ma Xiaoan. He looked at the two people. They were both wearing suits and carrying briefcases. They were very stylish. He was a little curious. Who are those two people? What are they doing in the studio? Ma Xiaoan saw Charlotte and greeted him, "Boss. Boss Lei, someone wants to talk to you about business." He then said to the two men in suits, "That is the boss of our studio, Charlotte. You can talk to him." Hee, I can't make the decision." It turned out to be two strange customers. Charlotte followed them to greet them. Since the fallout with Qi Jingxiu, the business of Lima's studio had been very slow. They could only maintain their business, and they didn't make much money. It was certainly a good thing that there were new customers. When the two men in suits heard that it was Charlotte, the boss of Lima's studio, they greeted him with a smile and greeted Charlotte. "My name is Zhou Wei. This is my colleague, Jiang Xian." A man in a suit who claimed to be Zhou Wei said with a smile, "We came from the capital. We are here on behalf of Shenzhou Industry Group." Whether it was Jiang Xian or Zhou Wei, Charlotte had never heard of their names before. It was the first time he had heard of the Shenzhou Industrial Group, mentioned by Zhou Wei. He felt even more strange and thought to himself, "It's normal if the companies in Haizhu City or the surrounding areas want me to process parts and place orders. But the capital is thousands of miles away, and I've never been in contact with the Shenzhou Industrial Group. How did they find me here? As if guessing what Charlotte was thinking, Jiang Xian said, "It's like this, Mr. Xia. We came here to do something. Not here to discuss business." Charlotte was a little disappointed in his heart, but he didn't show it on his face. "What do you want to figure out?" Jiang Xian opened his briefcase and took out a well-wrapped cloth bag. He then opened the cloth bag and revealed a part. Seeing the parts wrapped in cloth, Charlotte was stunned. This was the part that he had processed for Dongfang Heavy Industry, and he had earned the first $1,000,000 in his life. He remembered every detail of that deal very clearly. Naturally, he would not forget the precision parts that he had personally worked on. "Mr. Xia, do you still remember this part?" Jiang Xian looked very polite. Charlotte nodded. "This is the Part 1 process for Dongfang Heavy Industry." "Of course I remember, but why is it here?" Zhou Wei said, "That's why we're here. We commissioned Dongfang Heavy Industry to process the parts you processed. They are very important. I think you also know that this kind of precision parts can't be processed in China at present because of the technical blockade in Europe and the United States. But you did it. You're amazing." Charlotte smiled. "You didn't come from the capital to praise me, did you?" Jiang Xian said, "Mr. Xia, you must be joking. We're here to prove that this thing will bring you benefits. You should understand what I'm talking about." Charlotte said, "Do you want me to process another piece to prove it to you?" Jiang Xian said, "Yes, but I promise you that as long as you prove that you can really process such precision parts, you will not lack orders in the future." Charlotte's heart was already full of excitement, but he was still calm on the surface. He said, "Before I start, can I ask a question?" "Go ahead." Zhou Wei was also very polite. Charlotte said, "I processed that batch of parts for Dongfang Heavy Industry." "Dongfang Heavy Industry will not say this kind of thing at all. So how do you know that it was processed by me?" Zhou Wei smiled. "It's very simple. There is no equipment in China, nor such a talent. We always thought that Dongfang Heavy Industry could not process it, but they delivered it on time. Of course, we have to find out why this happened. After receiving the parts from Dongfang Heavy Industry, we commissioned the relevant departments to investigate. This kind of thing is not difficult to investigate. After all, there are many people in Dongfang Heavy Industry who know about this. With this investigation, we found Li. Then, well, here we are." The question in Xia Lei's heart was answered. On the surface, this matter seemed a little strange, but Zhou Wei's explanation made it seem reasonable. Ning Yuanshan, the chairman of Dongfang Heavy Industry, had said more than once that the batch of parts was very important. He had even offered a reward of 1,000,000 yuan. Such an important part, and the people of Shenzhou Industry Group concluded that Dongfang Heavy Industry could not process it. After Dongfang Heavy Industry delivered the goods on time, how could the people of Shenzhou Industry Group not be curious and investigate? After the investigation, it was really not strange that the people of Shenzhou Industry Group appeared here. Jiang Xian said, "Mr. Xia, please show us your superb craftsmanship." Charlotte nodded. "Of course, but I don't have such materials here. I can only process them with ordinary materials." "We don't need your materials. We have qualified materials." Zhou Wei also opened his briefcase, then took out a cloth bag and handed it to Charlotte. Inside the cloth bag was a piece of alloy metal, which was the material used to process the parts in Dongfang Heavy Industry. Xia Lei took the piece of alloy metal and walked to a CNC lathe. He first processed the blank, then switched the CNC lathe to manual mode. He used the microvision ability of his left eye to cut and polish the metal bit by bit to the required precision. The whole process, from starting the machine to finishing the processing, took half an hour. Charlotte handed the processed part to Zhou Wei. "You can check it." Zhou Wei looked at the part processed by Charlotte and exclaimed, "You don't even need blueprints and parameters. You finished it in half an hour. That's amazing." Jiang Xian took out the testing equipment and took the part from Zhou Wei's hand to test it. The equipment in Jiang Xian's hand was very advanced. It was like an infrared scanner. When it scanned the part, all kinds of data of the part came out. Charlotte had never seen such a testing equipment in Dongfang Heavy Industry. Jiang Xian quickly finished testing the part. He couldn't hide his excitement and said with a smile, "It seems that we really found the right person. Mr. Xia, you are really an amazing person." The employees of Lema Studio also smiled. They all looked very excited. Charlotte said, "Do you still need this kind of part?" Zhou Wei said with a smile, "We not only need this kind of part, but we also need you." Jiang Xian carefully put the part processed by Charlotte into his briefcase and then said, "Mr. Xia, are you interested in joining our Northern Industry Group? You can say whatever you want. As long as your requirements are not too exaggerated, we can satisfy you. You can say whatever you want." How many companies in the world would offer such conditions? Hearing such conditions from Jiang Xian, Charlotte was a little tempted at this moment. Ma Xiao and Zhou Xiaohong and the others were nervous and had mixed feelings. On the one hand, they were proud of Charlotte, but on the other hand, they were worried about their own future. If Charlotte went to the Northern Industry Group, then Lema Studio would be finished. What else could they do except work on the construction site? Especially Zhou Xiaohong. If Charlotte hadn't taken her in, she might have been living on the street by now. But Charlotte gave her a new life and gave her hope to live a good life. How could she be willing to let Charlotte go? Everyone's eyes were focused on Charlotte, waiting for his answer nervously. Charlotte's eyes swept over the faces of Zhou Xiaohong, Ma Xiaoan, and the others. Their nervousness, reluctance, and worry about the future came into his eyes one by one. He suddenly smiled and said, "Thank you for your kindness. It may be better to go to your place, but I still like to stay here. If you want to process any part, just give me the order. Isn't it the same whether I go to the Northern Industry Group or not?" Zhou Xiaohong and the others suddenly breathed a sigh of relief, and a smile appeared on their faces. Zhou Wei and Jiang Xian, on the other hand, looked disappointed. Compared to placing an order with Lema Studio, they certainly hoped that Charlotte would go to the Northern Industry Group. Zhou Wei said, "It's a pity, but the door of the Northern Industry Group is always open for you. No matter when you want to come, we will welcome you." Charlotte said, "Thank you, I'll think about it. Also, can you tell me what the Northern Industry Group does?" Jiang Xian was stunned for a moment and looked very surprised. "Mr. Xia, don't you know what the Northern Industry Group does?" Charlotte shook his head. "I'm sorry, I really don't know." Jiang Xian said with a smile, "The Northern Industry Group is a state-owned enterprise. We produce fighter jets, tanks, missiles, and so on. We don't do it to make money. We only do it to improve our country's national defense." Charlotte was shocked. However, after hearing Jiang Xian's words, he understood why Ning Yuanshan repeatedly said that the batch of parts was very important. He also understood why it was so easy for the Northern Industry Group to find out who processed the batch of parts. If they could accept their orders, who would dare to cause trouble for Lema Studio in the future? Zhou Wei took out a document from his briefcase and handed it to Charlotte. "This time, we asked Mr. Xia to process the above parts for us. This document contains the drawings of the parts that need to be processed, various parameters, and so on. We will also provide you with the materials. Take a look, and then we'll talk about the contract later." Charlotte opened the document and looked through it. Jiang Xian said, "Mr. Xia, I have a proposal." Charlotte asked casually, "What proposal?" Jiang Xian said, "I hope that Mr. Xia can register your studio as a company. Please understand that we are a national and large group. If we cooperate, and you only represent a studio on the street, it will damage our reputation, and it will not be good for you." Charlotte said with a smile, "Please rest assured. In fact, I already had this plan before you came. Now that you're here, my plan can be implemented ahead of schedule. I'll register the company in the afternoon and find a place to build a factory." Zhou Wei suddenly moved closer to Charlotte's ear and whispered, "Mr. Xia, the parts we want can only be processed by you. Do you understand what I mean? We can handle the ordinary parts ourselves." Charlotte smiled. "No problem." Zhou Wei stretched out his hand to Charlotte. "Happy cooperation." Charlotte shook hands with Zhou Wei. "Happy cooperation." Jiang Xian also stretched out his hand to shake hands with Charlotte. "Happy cooperation." Charlotte said, "Happy cooperation." The staff of Lema Studio burst into applause. Chapter 74. Charlotte invited Zhou Wei and Jiang Xin to dinner. Ma Xiaoan, Zhou Xiaohong, and others also attended. Zhou Xiaohong, Chun Ajiao, and others were not highly educated. They had the smell of dirt, but Charlotte didn't care what Zhou Wei and Jiang Xin thought of them. He wouldn't look down on them because of what he had achieved. In fact, Zhou Wei and Jiang Xin didn't look down on Ma Xiaoan and others. Everyone talked and laughed, and the dinner was lively. In the afternoon, after seeing Zhou Wei and Jiang Xin off, Charlotte and Ma Xiaoan went to the Industrial and Commercial Bureau of Haizhu City to register the company. Lei, have you thought about the name of the company? Ma Xiaoan asked in the car. Charlotte said, Do I need to think about it? Lei Ma Manufacturing. Well, remove the word Ma. The company is yours. My name feels awkward in it, Ma Xiaoan said. Charlotte smiled and said, The company is mine, but you are also my brother. I said that we should face difficulties together and enjoy blessings together. After the company is established, you have to help manage it. When the business is on the right track, you don't have to work. You just have to help manage it. The few people in the studio can't do it. We need to hire some more educated and skilled workers. In short, if I earn more, I'll give you more. If I earn less, I'll give you less. Ma Xiaoan was so moved that he couldn't say anything. Charlotte patted him on the shoulder and said, Xiaoan, we grew up together. We are only brothers in this life. How can we be brothers in the next life? I'm not the kind of person who leaves his brother when he gets rich. Ma Xiaoan said, Only brothers in this life? I will still be brothers with you in the next life. If you do well in this life, I will follow you. In the next life, it will be my turn. I will definitely do better than you. You will follow me in the next life. Charlotte smiled and said, Okay, I will follow you in the next life. They arrived at the Industrial and Commercial Bureau. Charlotte parked the car in the parking lot and entered the Industrial and Commercial Bureau with Ma Xiaoan. After simplifying the administrative procedures, registering a company was actually not that complicated. Charlotte filled in some forms and submitted proof of assets. The first step was completed. All he needed to do was to wait for the approval from the Bureau of Industry and Commerce, and Thunder Horse Manufacturing would be born. After leaving the company, Charlotte drove to Rema's studio. Lazy, it's time for you to find a woman. On the way, Ma Xiaoan somehow thought of this matter. He said, You are the boss of the company now. It doesn't match your status if you don't have a woman to serve you. Look at those company bosses. Which one of them has a few women? They have wives at home, lovers outside, secretaries, mistresses, and a whole bunch of women. You know me. I'm not a casual person, Charlotte said. Then you should find one and marry her. Let her do your laundry, cook, and have children. At night with you, hey, Zhang Rui is not bad. She is interested in you. I can see it, but you fool can't see it. Ma Xiaoan said with a smile. Charlotte said, Don't talk nonsense. She and I are just friends. Besides, with her temper, if I marry her, she will ride on my head. I don't like it. Ma Xiaoan was stunned for a moment and laughed again. That's true. She is riding on your head now. It can be seen from the way she changed your car. If you get married, she will definitely climb from your neck to your head. Haha, you have a hard life. Just accept it. Charlotte shook his head with a wry smile. He didn't want to talk about this topic anymore. At this time, Shindu Tiannin's appearance suddenly appeared in his mind. She was cold and elegant, and she looked very noble. He sighed in his heart and said secretly, I must be sick. A dregs truck loaded with sand suddenly rushed up from behind. Xiaolei jumped in fright and hurriedly changed lanes. The dregs truck brushed the side of the polo car. The wind stirred up by the tires made the polo car shake. Damn it, are you in a hurry to reincarnate? Ma Xiaoan poked his head out of the window and scolded. The driver of the dregs truck obviously couldn't hear Ma Xiaoan's curse. He drove away in the blink of an eye. Charlotte was still frightened. How can there be a dregs truck running on the road in broad daylight? Ma Xiaoan said, Maybe it's a boy on the construction site who drove it for fun, or he got permission to work overtime to transport dregs. Charlotte didn't ask much and continued to drive. A few minutes later, the polo car came to the street where Lei Ma's studio was located. Charlotte slowed down and stopped the car on the side of the road after sliding for a while. Before he got out of the car, he saw Qi Jingxiu standing at the door of the studio. He secretly said in his heart, "Is Qi Jingxiu here to place an order this time? If so, I still have to take the order. After all, business is business. After Lema Studio was upgraded to a company, I need more clients. I can't even refuse a client like Qi Jingxiu." The Thunder Horse Studio had been upgraded to the Thunder Horse Manufacturing Company. There were more employees, and they needed money for salaries, insurance premiums, bonuses, labor insurance, and so on. If he only relied on the precision processing business with the Shenzhou Industrial Group, it was obviously not enough. Moreover, he was the only one who could do the precision processing, and others could not do it all. He could not support a company on his own. Could he? That was impossible. Therefore, ordinary business was the most important, and only ordinary business could support more workers. Qi Jingxiu saw Charlotte get out of the car. Then she waved at Charlotte with a smile on her face. "Lei, I've been waiting for you for a long time." Charlotte also smiled and said hello. "Jingxiu, long time no see." But at this moment, Ma Xiaoan suddenly exclaimed, "Be careful." When Charlotte was about to turn back, Ma Xiaoan had already rushed over and pushed him away with a palm. At that moment, a slag truck that cut diagonally from the opposite lane hit Ma Xiaoan's body. His body was thrown high up into the air, and blood spurted out of his mouth like raindrops drifting in the air. Bang! Ma Xiaoan's body fell on the roof of the polo car, but the slag truck did not stop. With a bang, the polo car was overturned until it rushed to the sidewalk and hit the flower bed. Ma Xiaoan lay on the sidewalk, covered with the fragments of the polo car and glass shards. His mouth and nose were constantly bleeding. "Xiaoan!" Charlotte climbed up from the ground like crazy and rushed to Ma Xiaoan's side. "We are brother." Before he finished his sentence, Ma Xiaoan's voice stopped. There was only air coming out of his mouth. "No!" Charlotte roared and couldn't help but burst into tears. The people of Lema Studio also ran out and surrounded Ma Xiaoan. The two women, Zhou Xiaohong and Chun Ajiao, couldn't help but cry. Charlotte suddenly got up from Ma Xiaoan's side and rushed to the slag truck that had crashed in front of the flower bed. The driver of the slag truck had just opened the deformed door and jumped out of the car. The driver of the slag truck was very young, in his 20s. He was relatively strong and had a lot of tattoos on his body. The impact had also caused him some injuries, but they were just some superficial wounds. It was not a big deal. The driver of the slag truck jumped out of the car and just glanced at Ma Xiaoan, who was lying on the ground. There was no look of guilt on his face, but when he saw Charlotte rush to him, he looked a little surprised. Charlotte rushed up, grabbed the collar of the driver of the slag truck, and roared angrily, "Damn you, you compensate me, Xiaoan." The driver of the slag truck said, "Don't mess around. If you hit me, I won't pay for it." Charlotte's anger could no longer be controlled. The words of the driver of the slag truck were like a fuse, which suddenly ignited his whole body. He punched the driver of the slag truck in the face. Half of the driver's face was suddenly deformed under his fist, and 2 teeth flew out of his mouth. "Money. I asked you to pay." Charlotte kicked the driver of the slag truck in the lower abdomen. The driver of the slag truck screamed, and his whole body was kicked up. Charlotte rushed up again and kicked hard between the legs of the driver of the slag truck. The driver of the slag truck was in cold sweat because of the pain, and there was no blood on his face. He was arrogant just now, but his eyes were full of fear at this time. Charlotte was about to rush up and beat him, but Wang Youfu and Cui Yong rushed up and hugged him. "Boss Lei, you can't hit him anymore. You will kill him." Cui Yong said anxiously, "If you kill him, you'll go to jail. It's not worth it to go to jail for such a person." Zhou Xiaohong also limped over and stood in front of the driver of the slag truck. She cried, "Brother Lei Zi, don't hit him anymore. Brother Xiao and doesn't want you to do this. Don't hit him. Please don't hit him." Charlotte finally calmed down a little. He suddenly remembered something and said, "This guy wanted to hit me before. He did it on purpose. Call the police. This guy is trying to murder me." The driver of the slag truck said, Don't talk nonsense. I don't know why I hit you. The car must be out of control. I don't even know you. Who am I trying to murder? Don't talk nonsense without evidence. I will sue you for slander. Charlotte's eyes suddenly became cold. You were sent by Hilauchi? Who is Hilauchi? The driver's eyes flickered. I don't know what you're talking about. I'm going to kill you. Charlotte lost control again and was about to rush up. Zhou Xiaohong suddenly rushed up and hugged Charlotte tightly. Charlotte pushed her away. She simply hugged Charlotte's feet and cried, Brother Lazy. Calm down. The driver of the slag truck suddenly got up and ran away. Wang Youfu hugged him and threw him to the ground. Chun Aji Yao and others from the studio also ran over and held down the driver of the slag truck. Qi Jingxiu came over and looked very flustered. Lazy. I called the ambulance and the police. Calm down. It's not worth it for this kind of person. Xiao Lei slumped to the ground, tears streaming down his cheeks uncontrollably. The scene of Ma Xiaoan pushing him away kept appearing in Charlotte's mind. At that time, he was still standing on the side of the road. There were a lot of cars behind him, so he couldn't notice the slag truck that suddenly swerved over. If Ma Xiaoan hadn't pushed him away, he would have been the one who was hit. Ma Xiaoan saved him, but Ma Xiaoan was lying on the ground at the moment and couldn't even breathe. Just now, Ma Xiaoan was talking and laughing with him, saying that they would be brothers in the next life. But in the blink of an eye, he went to another world and couldn't see him anymore. Some scenes of him and Ma Xiaoan when they were young appeared in Charlotte's mind again. He and Ma Xiaoan swam in the river, put frogs in the school bag of a female classmate, dug out bird nests. Ma Xiaoan was gone. Charlotte roared at the sky. Heaven Duke didn't respond at all. Chapter 75. Ma Xiaoan was taken away by an ambulance, but that was just a formality. He would never come back. The police and the traffic police also came. The driver of the truck was eventually taken away by the traffic police, not the police. This matter was initially identified as a traffic accident, not a criminal case. This result made Charlotte and the people of Lei Ma Studio very angry, but the law was the law. It would not favor any party, let alone take care of the feelings of one party. Charlotte took the traffic police car to the hospital, and he saw Ma Xiaoan in the mortuary. He just stood there, quietly looking at Ma Xiaoan's calm and pale face, and did not move for a long time. Jiang Rui rushed over when she heard the news and cried for a long time. Ma Xiaoan was also her friend, but their relationship was not as close as hers and Charlotte's. Finally, she sent Charlotte home. Jiang Rui cooked 2 dishes for Charlotte, but Charlotte looked at the food without moving. Eat some, Jiang Rui persuaded him. How can you go on like this? Hurry up and eat. You should at least eat a little. Charlotte still looked at the food motionlessly, and no one knew what he was thinking. Jiang Rui frowned. Do you eat or not? If you don't eat, I will feed you. With that, she added a chopstick of tomato, scrambled eggs, and stuffed it into Charlotte's mouth. Charlotte turned his head and said, Rui, Ma Xiaoan was murdered. Do you believe it? Jiang Rui said, I believe it. Eat the food. Charlotte said, then you go and catch the driver of the truck. You interrogate him. He will definitely confess that Hilauchi is the mastermind behind this. The person Hilauchi wants to kill is me. Ma Xiaoan pushed me away, but he couldn't go on, and his tears couldn't help flowing out again. Jiang Rui had no other choice. She put down her chopsticks and looked at Charlotte quietly. In fact, she didn't have an appetite. She just didn't want Charlotte to be too sad, so she cooked a meal to divert Charlotte's attention. But now it seemed that her efforts were in vain. Go and catch the driver. Hurry up. Charlotte's emotions were a little out of control. Jiang Rui grabbed his hand and comforted him. Lazy, Xiaoan is dead. I know you are very sad, but can you calm down? How do you expect me to calm down? Charlotte yelled at her. Jiang Rui said, I called the Traffic Police Accident Management Center in the afternoon. The brake of the Dreg's truck was broken, and there was a problem with the direction system. The driver was not suspected of drunk driving or drug driving. You asked me to arrest him, but what reason did I have to arrest him? Even if I catch him, how many hours can I lock him up for? The driver didn't drink or take drugs, and he didn't know Ma Shaoan. With these reasons alone, the driver of the dregs truck could escape the punishment of the law. The driver of the dregs truck didn't even need to lose money because the insurance company would take care of the aftermath for him. This was the truth, and there was no fairness at all. The scene of the day came to Charlotte's mind again. He drove the polo car with Ma Xiao until Lima's studio. He was talking and laughing with Ma Xiao when he suddenly saw the dregs truck rushing up in the rearview mirror. He hurriedly hit a plate and avoided the dregs truck. The dregs truck roared past from behind, and Ma Xiao stuck his head out of the window and cursed. Charlotte's left eye twitched slightly, and a still picture was played back in his mind. In that picture, a dregs truck appeared in the rearview mirror of the polo car. Through the windshield of the dregs truck, he clearly saw the driver of the dregs truck. The driver of the dregs truck showed a cruel smile. His tattoos and face were very clear. This dregs truck was the same as the dregs truck that killed Ma Xiaoan, and the driver was the same. This was not a coincidence, but a murder. It was just that the other party won his life, but accidentally killed Ma Xiao and Lei. What are you thinking about? Jiang Rui's eyes were filled with tears. Don't be like this, okay? Do you know that I'm worried about you? Charlotte didn't speak. He sat there like a walking corpse that had lost its soul. He looked like this on the surface, but there was a flame of anger burning in his heart. He said in his heart, the driver of the dregs truck is just a dog of He Laoqi. The real mastermind behind the scenes is He Laoqi, or Gu Qian's instructions. You want to kill me, and Ma Xiaoan died for me. I must avenge this. Lei, say something. What's wrong with you? Jiang Rui looked worried. Charlotte suddenly looked up at her and said, Let's eat. Jiang Rui suddenly froze on the spot. Eat. Only when your stomach is full can you have the strength to do things. Charlotte ate the dishes and said vaguely, Well, the dishes you cook taste good. Why didn't I see you cook like this before? Jiang Rui was stunned for a long time before she said, Lei, are you all right? Charlotte said, You're all right, aren't you? Didn't you just ask me to eat? I'm eating now, and you asked me if you still want me to eat? Let's eat. Jiang Rui also picked up the rice. After eating, Jiang Rui went to wash the dishes, and Charlotte went to sleep in the room. Jiang Rui washed the dishes and came out of the kitchen. Charlotte had begun to snore. Really, he sleeps like a pig. That's good. He will think nonsense when he is awake. Jiang Rui muttered. Then she closed the door and left. As soon as Jiang Rui left, Charlotte opened his eyes. He went to the balcony and watched Jiang Rui go into the stairwell. When a light in her house was on, he also turned around and went out. Out of the community, Charlotte called a taxi and went straight to the suburbs. About 40 minutes later, he got out of the taxi and walked to a fishing village. The fishing village was near the sea. There's a very magnificent villa in the village, and the owner of the villa was He Laoqi. He Laoqi also had a house in the city, but rich people didn't like to live in the city, and he was no exception. No one knew how much money He Laoqi had, but it was estimated that he had at least tens of millions. Xiao Lei pulled down the baseball cap on his head a little to cover his forehead and the bridge of his nose. Then, he slowly walked toward the mansion. Whether He Laoqi went out to work or stayed at home, he always had 4 bodyguards around him. The 4 bodyguards had been with He Laoqi for many years. They were very good at fighting and killing, and they were also very famous in the underworld. This was all the information he got from Qin Xiang. The night shrouded the fishing village. There were no street lights in the village, so it was dark. It was just convenient for Charlotte to get close to the villa. The villa was brightly lit, and he could see it clearly from a distance. With the lights in the villa, he saw someone moving in the villa from a distance. There was a person on the viewing balcony on the 3rd floor of the villa. He sat on a beach chair and smoked, overlooking the sea under the night sky. In a room on the 2nd floor, there were 2 people lying on the bed watching TV, a man and a woman. In the living room on the 1st floor, there was a person watching TV. He randomly pressed the remote control, and he looked a little impatient. In the yard, there were 2 people chatting, and they seemed to be very quiet. This was all the information that Charlotte got after using his X-ray vision. Withdrawing his gaze, Charlotte thought to himself, could the man and woman in the room on the second floor be He Laochi and his wife, Han Li? He Laochi's wife was called Han Li, and his son was called He Jiahao. This was also the information he got from Qin Xiang. Unfortunately, Qin Xiang couldn't provide him with a photo, so although he was very suspicious that the man and woman in the room on the second floor were He Laochi and Han Li, he couldn't confirm it. Charlotte avoided the main road and slowly approached the villa from a small path. Although it was dark around the villa, Charlotte still saw the surveillance cameras installed on the wall and the roof of the villa. The installation of those cameras was very sophisticated, and each one covered an area. There was no surveillance blind spot around the entire villa that could be sneaked in. In a closer position, Charlotte saw a few people who were playing cards in a room on the first floor of the villa. There were piles of cash on the card table, as well as some powdery things. Those people were either wearing earrings or had dyed blonde hair. They also had tattoos that looked very evil and ferocious. At a glance, one could tell that they were not good people. Charlotte thought to himself, are these people playing cards and gambling He Laochi's underlings? Including those four, there were 10 bodyguards in this villa. Damn, he's really cautious. If he's so afraid of death, why is he in the underworld? Charlotte's gaze moved to the bodyguard on the viewing balcony on the third floor. His left eye moved slightly, and the situation of the bodyguard suddenly came into his vision. He saw a gun on the bodyguard's waist. Then, he used his X-ray vision to look at the other 3 bodyguards who weren't playing cards. In the same situation, the 3 bodyguards also had guns. Finally, he used his X-ray vision to look at the people playing cards. As a result, he found that those people looked very fierce, but they didn't have guns. They only had cold weapons, such as hunting knives and butterfly knives. From this discovery, he could almost judge that the 4 people without big cards were He Laochi's personal bodyguards, and those who were playing card were most likely the underlings who were called to help protect He Laochi. Chun Chuanhu brought so many underlings to smash Thunder Horse Studio, but they were all killed by Charlotte alone. Almost 10 people were sent to the hospital. He Laochi sent people to kill Charlotte, but in the end, Ma Xiao and was killed. He Laochi would definitely prevent Charlotte from taking the extreme route to seek revenge. Therefore, it was not surprising that the security here was so tight. He Laochi's bodyguards are all armed, and he is also guarding against me. If I go in rashly, I will fall into his trap. Although I can fight now, if the other party has a gun, it will be useless no matter how good I can fight. Charlotte came with a vengeful anger, but when he found that He Laochi's bodyguards were armed, he finally calmed down. It was never too late for a gentleman to take revenge, not to mention that he didn't need to wait that long. Before leaving, Charlotte's gaze once again fell on the room on the second floor. He remembered the appearance of the man and woman on the bed. Then, he walked back along the path. Just as he walked out of the entrance of the fishing village, a beam of bright light suddenly shone from the side of the road. Charlotte didn't reach out to block the dazzling light, but his left eye penetrated the beam and saw the person standing behind it. Qin Xiang. Sitting on the Yamaha, Qin Xiang frowned. I knew you would come here. However, your boss is still rational and didn't barge in. If you had barged in, you would have died tonight. He Laochi's 4 bodyguards are very good at shooting. Even if you were the reincarnation of Bruce Lee, you can't come out alive. Charlotte walked over to Qin Xiang. You knew that I might die, but you still came? Qin Xiang said, we are friends. You just lost a friend, and I don't want to lose you as a friend. Besides, you promised me that you would help me get rid of He Laochi's control. If you die, who will help me? Charlotte sighed. Let's go. Take me out of here. Qin Xiang lit the engine. Get in the car. I will take you for a drink. Charlotte climbed on the Yamaha. Qin Xiang stepped on the accelerator and disappeared into the night in the blink of an eye. Chapter 76. Charlotte sighed, squatted down gloomily, and put socks on her feet. Charlotte said, don't worry. I won't do anything stupid after tonight. I want to find Jiang Rui. She is the director of the Beigong District Police Station. She has access to the household registration system. I want to ask her to help me find out what assets Huang Yihu has under his name. What are you going to do? Qin Xiang looked a little worried. Charlotte lowered his voice and said, "It's me, Charlotte." Qin Xiang patted Charlotte's shoulder and said, "You don't have to be so polite with me. We're friends." Qin Xiang said, "If I have any new discoveries, I will contact you as soon as possible. Also, be careful." Charlotte told her the information he got from Qin Xiang. This was the understanding of normal people. Even if Lao-Chi's real name was not Lao-Chi, he should be called XX, and definitely not Huang Yihu. People in China sometimes change their names, but their surnames almost never changed. Charlotte said, "Don't shout and close the door. If the neighbors hear me bickering with you at this time, they will gossip." Qin Xiang laughed and said, "I know you are a very smart person. Okay, I will send you back now." The sea was rolling in his sight, never stopping. Qin Xiang said, Lao-Chi is very cunning. He never tells others his real name, and he never shows his ID card to others. People in the underworld only know his nickname, Lao-Chi, but few people know his real name. I found out that his real name is Huang Yihu. Help me get the uniform in a room. We have to go to the police station. The computer at home can't be connected to the computer at the police station. Jiang Rui sat on the sofa, looking like a rich young lady waiting to be served. Charlotte snapped, "Can you stop messing around?" Charlotte said, "I didn't mean that. This is very strange. Now, send me back. Let's go to your room," Charlotte said. Jiang Rui paused for a moment, then suddenly pursed her lips into a smile. "You should have said so earlier. Seriously." She paused for a moment, then added, "Treat me to Italian food again." Charlotte nodded. "I will. Thank you." Charlotte was speechless. "You glutton. All right, deal." Wait. Charlotte was a little confused. These are two names. One is surnamed He and the other is surnamed Huang. How can they be related to the same person? Wear it or not. Jiang Rui put her foot on Charlotte's knee and touched Charlotte. "No, I'm protecting you. Why don't you understand?" Charlotte's aggressive eyes made Jiang Rui panic. "Why haven't you given up yet?" Jiang Rui said, "Why do you still want to investigate that Lao-Chi? You want to avenge Shaoan. This idea is too dangerous. I won't allow you to do stupid things." Lei? Charlotte shook his head with a bitter smile. He was really not used to such an intimate address. However, since he had become friends with Qin Xiang, then he had to adapt to some of Qin Xiang's unnatural habits. The door opened quickly, and Jiang Rui appeared at the door. She was only wearing a thin nightdress. When the light shone on it, it was very transparent. The bra and lace she was wearing were vaguely revealed, which had a kind of hazy beauty. Qin Xiang said, "My reaction was the same as yours, but my friend was very sure that Lao-Chi's real name was Huang Yihu." And? Charlotte was slightly stunned, then shook his head. "I didn't think so much. Ma Shaoan died because he saved me. If I don't avenge him, am I still a man?" Charlotte nodded. "You should be careful." Back in the community, Charlotte jumped off the motorcycle. "You go back. I will tell you what I found." Qin Xiang said, "You didn't think so much. Let me help you. If you really sneaked into Lao-Chi's house and killed him, you would be finished. Gu Qian only lost a dog, but he eliminated you, his opponent. As long as you killed Lao-Chi with the power of the Gu family, it would be useless for you to escape to the ends of the earth. Once you are caught, you will be sentenced to death. If you die, what about your sister? What about those who follow you to make a living? Have you thought about them? Huang Yihu? Lei, why are you investigating this person?" Jiang Rui obviously heard this name for the first time. She knew almost all the people that Charlotte knew, so she felt a little strange. Charlotte and Qin Xiang sat on a rock. A lot of beer cans were thrown at their feet. "Ah, you are really shameless." Jiang Rui's face suddenly turned red. I haven't thought about it yet. It's too sudden. Longbing might help, but he had to prove it with evidence." Qin Xiang sighed. "You are a smart person, and there are many ways for you to take revenge. Why did you choose to die together?" Jiang Rui rolled her eyes at Charlotte. "Shaoan left, and I was in a bad mood. I was worried that you would do something stupid, so I couldn't sleep. Just as I was about to sleep, you knocked on the door again. Are you really not letting me sleep?" Charlotte really wanted to kick her, but he went to Jiang Rui's room obediently and took out her uniform, shoes, and socks. You dare to come to my house at this time? Are you afraid that the neighbors will gossip? Jiang Rui's words were unforgiving, but she closed the door very quickly. Jiang Rui collected her thoughts. Who do you want me to help you investigate? Charlotte nodded again. Yes, we are friends. Huang Yihu, Charlotte said. Help me investigate this person's information and what assets he has under his name. In short, give me as much as you can. Qin Xiang shrugged. I don't know. I'm not lying to you, really. Qin Xiang said, By the way, I finally found out the true identity of Hilauchi from friend today. Charlotte said awkwardly, It's so late. Why are you still awake? A few minutes later, Jiang Rui took Charlotte out of the door and got on the Great Wall H6. Then they drove out of the community and went straight to the Beigong District Police Station. Charlotte was puzzled, but according to the information you gave me before, Hilauchi's son is called He Jiahao. If his surname is Huang, why would he give his son the surname He? Tell me, do you really want to kill Hilauchi tonight? Throwing away an empty beer can in her hand, Qin Xiang looked at Charlotte and asked, Goodbye, Lei. Qin Xiang rode away on the motorcycle. True identity? Charlotte was stunned. Charlotte nodded. If what you said is true, then Hilauchi is a fictional person. He has done evil for so many years and made so much money. Those assets will definitely be under the name Huang Yihu. He used this way to launder his dirty money. In the underworld, he is the feared Hilauchi, but under the sun, he is a legitimate businessman without any criminal record. Charlotte interrupted her. Help me. I will transfer the ownership of the car to you. Jiang Rui crossed one of her legs and gently arched her snow-white foot. Put on the socks for your sister. Qin Xiang's heart moved. Do you want to start with his true identity? Go away. Don't talk about death. It's not auspicious. Jiang Rui said, but I think it's best to leave this matter to the police. Qin Xiang seemed to feel the pain in Charlotte's heart. She softly comforted him. Don't be too sad, don't worry. Don't do stupid things like tonight in the future. Think about it and plan well. Charlotte didn't wait for her to finish and walked around her body into her home. Hilauchi was very cunning. When he did bad things, he always ordered his men to do it, and he himself stood far away from it. It was not easy to find evidence of his crimes. Charlotte suddenly stepped forward and grabbed Jiang Rui's shoulders, looking straight into her eyes. Rui, we have been together for so many years. Can't you help me with this? Charlotte said, What nonsense are you talking about? I want you to help me check a person's information. Isn't your computer in your room? He thought that Jiang Rui was asleep, but he had just knocked on the door 3 times when Jiang Rui's voice came from the door. Who is it? Charlotte didn't go home, but went directly to Jiang Rui's door. Standing in front of the door, he looked at the time on his mobile phone. It was already midnight. It was a little inappropriate to knock on a single woman's door at this time. He raised his hand and hesitated, but finally knocked down. Charlotte said angrily, He wanted to kill me. Ma Shaoan died because he saved me. Are you just going to let it go? Jiang Rui suddenly grabbed a pillow on the sofa and threw it at Charlotte. And then, Qin Xiang asked again. Charlotte was silent for a moment before he said, Before you came, I really wanted to sneak into his house and kill him. Charlotte suddenly thought of Long Bing. He secretly said in his heart, If I call Long Bing and tell her that Hilauchi wants to kill me, will she help me? But I don't have evidence. It would be good if I had evidence. Charlotte took the pillow and put it on the other sofa. Don't make trouble. This is very important. Otherwise, I wouldn't have come to your house at this time. Charlotte said, Hilauchi wants to kill me. This time Ma Xiao and died to save me. Will I be so lucky to escape next time? Why don't you understand? It's not that I want to find him for revenge, but he won't give up. If I don't do anything, what's the difference between waiting for death? If I die, who will quarrel with you in the future? There are many ways to take revenge. Why do you have to choose to die with him? This sentence echoed in Charlotte's mind, and his emotions slowly calmed down. Yes, breaking into Hilauchi's house and killing Hilauchi was a way to die with him for revenge. Hilauchi was an evil person who did all kinds of bad things. He deserved to die. But what about him? If he died, what about Xia Shui? What about the poor workers in Lema Studio? They saw that they had a better life than before. Did they have to go back to the construction site to make a living? Think about it. Qin Xiang said softly, I believe you can think of another way. Jiang Rui stretched out her other foot and put it on Charlotte's knee. She stretched out her jade-like legs, and the lace under her nightgown were completely exposed to Xia Lei's line of sight. He was made very nervous, but Jiang Rui did not seem to care about what he saw. He enjoyed it the whole time. Fortunately, Jiang Rui didn't ask him to help her put on her pants and clothes. Jiang Rui was surprised. In the middle of the night, why did you enter my house without my permission? What do you want to do? Chapter 77. Jiang Rui took Charlotte into the archive room. She turned on the computer in the archive room and entered the public office's network system. Soon, she found Huang Yihu's information. Charlotte saw the photo on the computer monitor, but he couldn't believe his eyes. Because the photo of Huang Yihu he saw was not the same person he saw in the fishing village villa last night, who was holding a woman and watching TV. Last night, the person lying in the room on the second floor of the fishing village villa was very similar to Huang Yihu in age, height, and appearance, but this kind of similarity could not deceive his eyes. Now it seemed that last night was really a trap. Charlotte secretly rejoiced that he finally restrained his desire for revenge and did not enter the villa. If he went in, his life would really be over. Huang Yihu was a legitimate businessman on the file. He had a lot of dazzling identities, such as the vice president of the Haizhu City Chamber of Commerce, the legal representative of the New Moon Real Estate Company, the legal representative of the Iron Horse Transportation Company, and so on. He had hundreds of millions of assets under his name. His assets were all legal assets. Jiang Rui said, Lei, the person you want to investigate is very normal. Are you sure he is the big villain, Ilauchi? Charlotte said, You are the director of the police station. Haven't you heard of Ilauchi? Jiang Rui shrugged and said, Before Li Qinghua fell, I was a civilian police officer working in this archive room. How long have I been in office? In fact, there are a lot of things I don't know. Charlotte said, Check Ilauchi again. Jiang Rui then checked Ilauchi in the system. But this time, there was no information about Ilauchi. Charlotte sneered and said, Ilauchi is really a fictional character. Huang Yihu used Ilauchi's identity to make money in the underworld and then wash his name in the business world. On one side, he is an underworld hero, and on the other side, he is the vice president of the Chamber of Commerce. This guy is really a talent. Jiang Rui frowned. It's useless even if you find these things. He's a legitimate businessman. If you touch him, you'll be breaking the law. Even if I don't arrest you, the police will. Charlotte said, I won't do anything illegal. Only then did Jiang Rui relax a little. I'm relieved that you can think that way. You should also be more open-minded. If this Huang Yihu breaks the law, then the law will definitely punish him. It's just a matter of time. Well, I believe you. Although he said so, Charlotte didn't think so in his heart. According to the files, Huang Yihu had a net worth of hundreds of millions. For a gangster like him to get to where he was today, how could the sins he carried be small? However, he was still living a good life. He had wine, women, wealth, cars, and beauties. Even if an ordinary person worked hard for 10 lifetimes, they would not be able to live the life he had now. What else do you want me to check for you? Jiang Rui asked. No need. Get out of the way. I'll take a look at his file. Charlotte said. Jiang Rui got up and got out of the way. Charlotte sat in front of the computer in the archive room and continued to look at Huang Yihu's file. If the police wanted to check a person's file, the system provided a comprehensive file provided by the government agencies that were connected to the national network. It wasn't as simple as a photo, birthplace, and date of birth. It included blood type, fingerprints, work, position, spouse, and children, as well as assets under the name, etc. It was very detailed. Jiang Rui just looked at a part of it. Sitting in front of the computer, Charlotte slid the mouse, and the content on the monitor had new content. Spouse Li Yulan, born in 1980, director of the Haizhu City Chamber of Commerce. Son Huang Su, born in 2000, third-grade student of Haiju 7th High School. Charlotte's eyes browsed through the contents of the archive room, and his heart also secretly said, in the information provided by Qin Xiang, Han Li is He Laoqi's wife, and He Jiahao is He Laoqi's son. This is probably deliberately used by Huang Yihu to confuse people. People in the underworld have no lack of enemies. He made a fake wife and a fake son. If someone came to him for revenge, his enemies would not be able to use his fake wife and son to threaten him. He found a puppet that was very similar to him and kept it in his villa in the fishing village to oversee the underworld for him. All the illegal things he did were recorded on that puppet, and he himself was clean from the beginning. Huang Yihu, this guy is really more cunning than I thought. After reading Huang Yihu's file, Charlotte then looked at Li Yulan and Huang Su's files. Finally, he used Jiang Rui's authority to enter the Industrial and Commercial Bureau system and pulled up the files of assets under Huang Yihu's name. It was half an hour later when he finished reading the last file. Do you want me to print a copy for you? Jiang Rui said. Charlotte shook his head. No, I just want to read it. In fact, his left I had already recorded all the content, and there was no need to print it all. Take me back. Jiang Rui handed the car key to Charlotte. Charlotte was slightly stunned. What are you doing? I said I would transfer the car to you. Jiang Rui said, my car was damaged. What are you going to drive? You have a lot of things to do. You could drive it. I still have a bus to deal with. I said I wanted your car, but I was actually joking with you. Just treat me to a meal. Charlotte took the car key. When I get rich, I will buy you a good car. Jiang Rui giggled and said, buy me a car. Do you want to keep me? I am the police chief. Do you dare? Charlotte, back home. Charlotte couldn't sleep. His mind was full of Huang Yihu and Gu Qian's appearance. The next day, Lei Ma's studio did not open, so Charlotte took Zhou Xiaohong and others to see Ma Xiaoan off. At the crematorium, the moment Ma Xiaoan was sent to the incinerator, Charlotte couldn't help but burst into tears again. Back to Lei Ma's studio. Without Ma Xiaoan's voice, the once lively studio seemed to suddenly become a lot more deserted. Zhou Xiaohong wiped Ma Xiaoan's desk with a rag. She cried as she wiped. Brotherin, you always asked me to wipe your desk for you. Now that you're gone, I'll still wipe your desk for you every day. Everyone felt sad when they saw this scene. Charlotte said, I will give you 3 days off, have a good rest, and then come back to work. The old Master Yang Benkai said, how can we do that? We have received some small orders. Although the orders are small, we can't lose our credibility. We are fine. We will start work today. Chen Ajiao said, yes, we will start work today. I think it will be happy to see us work here. Chui Yong also said, Boss Lei, you're going to upgrade the studio to a company. You can go and do your work. We will finish these small orders. Brother and also wants to see your company established as soon as possible. Looking at the familiar and sad faces, Charlotte nodded with tears in his eyes. Well, if you want to start work, then start work. I will set up our company as soon as possible, and it will be happy in heaven. Chen Ajiao wiped her tears. Time to work, and don't be lazy. Charlotte also wiped the corner of his eyes and walked out of the studio. Chen Ajiao and others also started the machine and began to work. Ma Xiaoan had left, but the living people had to continue, and they had to do what they had to do. As soon as he got in the car, Charlotte received a call from Liang Xiao. Mr. Xiao, didn't you say you were coming to the boxing club today? Why haven't you come yet? It was Liang Xiao's voice. Charlotte put away his sad mood. My friend passed away yesterday. I will send him away today. I really have no mood to come to the boxing club to learn boxing another day. Sorry, I don't know. It's okay, really. Where are you now? Liang Xiao said, well, I think you need someone to accompany you now. Can I come to find you? Xiaolei wanted to refuse, but he thought it would be inappropriate to directly refuse a girl who was so kind. He thought for a moment and said, I'm going to Haiju City's Industry and Commerce Bureau to register a company. Are you going to register the company? Well, if you want to come, let's meet there, Charlotte said. Well, okay. See you later. Liang Xiao hung up the phone. Charlotte drove to Haiju City Industry and Commerce Bureau. There were many steps to register a company, from submitting the application materials to completing the registration, such as capital verification, seal engraving, tax application, and so on, which needed to be done by Charlotte. It would take about 10 days to complete the whole process, during which time he had no time to go to the boxing club to learn boxing. If only I had a secretary who was familiar with these operations, she could handle these things for me. Well, I really have to find a secretary. After the establishment of Lima Manufacturing Company, I will be the boss of the company. If I don't even have a secretary, it will not look good. When he arrived at the Industry and Commerce Bureau, such a thought suddenly came to Charlotte's mind. Then, he suddenly thought of Ma Xiao. If Ma Xiao was still alive, and he had to choose a secretary, he would definitely choose a woman with big breasts and a good figure. Wouldn't he? Charlotte's heart was full of sadness. After entering the Industry and Commerce Bureau, Charlotte came to the information desk. After showing yesterday's application attachment and identity card, he said politely, "Have my application materials been approved? I want to move on to the next step as soon as possible." The staff at the window glanced at the attachment of Charlotte's application materials, then said, "Sorry, there is a problem with your application materials. It has not been approved." Charlotte was stunned for a moment. How could it not be approved? What's the problem with it? The staff behind the window said, "The Lima Manufacturing Company that you applied for registration has already been applied. The same name, of course it can't be approved." Someone applied? How is that possible? Charlotte's heart suddenly burst with anger. "Are you kidding me?" The staff behind the window said, "Sir, it's useless to be anxious. It has not been approved. Why don't you choose a new company name and then submit the application again?" Change the company name? Charlotte was not willing at all, because the company name was the best way to commemorate Ma Xiao, and how could he be willing to change it? "You haven't answered my question. Who applied for this company name?" Charlotte's eyes were aggressive. The staff's face was a bit ugly. "How would I know? Don't make trouble for me. If you have the ability, go to our director. Do you have any other questions? If there is no other question, please step aside. Don't disturb the people behind." "Where's your director's office?" Charlotte restrained the anger in his heart. Indeed, it was useless to find an ordinary staff to make trouble. The staff said impatiently, "Our director's office is on the second floor. You can find it if you go up." Charlotte turned around and left the information window. "Mr. Xia," a woman's voice suddenly came. Charlotte looked in the direction of the voice and saw Liang Xiao at a glance. She was wearing a white shirt, light blue denim shorts, and a pair of proud long white legs. Her body revealed a tempting atmosphere of youth. Chapter 78. Liang Xiao really came, and in such a timely manner. Charlotte greeted her and said, "Hello, Miss Liang." Liang Xiao also greeted Charlotte and said, "I see you frowning. Are you in trouble?" Charlotte said, "I submitted an application yesterday and registered the company under the name Lima Manufacturing Company. There was no problem yesterday, but the people here just told me that someone had already registered under this name and asked me to change my name. The name of this company means a lot to me, and I don't want to change it." Liang Xiao thought for a moment and said, "Someone must be making things difficult for you. Even if you change your name, maybe they will still tell you that someone has already registered under this name." Charlotte suddenly thought of Gu Qian and Huang Yihu. Both of them had such an ability. "What are you going to do?" Liang Xiao asked. Charlotte said, "I want to talk to their director. I don't believe that they are so unreasonable." Liang Xiao said, "I studied business management in the United States. I have worked in several companies, and the one I did the most was as a secretary. I have some experience. Let me go with you. Maybe I can help you. You're really not simple. Well, let's go together." Charlotte needed an expert like her to help him. They went up to the second floor, and Charlotte saw the sign of the director's office at a glance. He and Liang Xiao walked over and saw that the door of the office was closed. Charlotte's heart skipped a beat, and his left eye twitched slightly. The door of the office seemed to be empty. There was a man and a woman in the office. They were talking in a low voice with a smile on their faces, and they seemed to be having a good time. Charlotte's left eye moved to the woman's face, and he suddenly understood who was behind this. The woman sitting opposite the man was none other than Huang Yihu's wife, Li Yulan, one of the directors of the Haizhu Chamber of Commerce. The man sitting in front of the desk was the director of the Industry and Commerce Bureau, Liao Dishing. His name tag is on the desk. Li Yulan was born in 1980. She was 35 years old, but she looked like she was in her early 30s. She was very young, and she was quite pretty and elegant. A woman who could catch Huang Yihu's eye would definitely not be bad. Liao Dishing was a very ordinary middle-aged man. He was clean-shaven and had a big belly. He looked a bit like an official. This kind of person looked fair and plump, very clean and easygoing, but actually had a belly full of fat and a head full of evil thoughts. Liang Xiao asked, "Why don't you knock on the door?" Charlotte said in a low voice, "Wait a minute." Liang Xiao looked at Charlotte curiously, but she didn't say anything or knock on the door. Charlotte's left eye locked on Liao Dishing and Li Yulan's lips, using their lips to interpret their conversation. "My husband invited Chief Liao to play golf this weekend. I don't know if Chief Liao is free." Li Yulan smiled, very friendly and very charming. Liao Dishing laughed and said, "Oh, I just helped him a little. It's nothing. Why did he invite me to play golf?" "No need, no need." Li Yulan said, "Chief Liao, you're treating me like an outsider. You and my husband are very good friends. Even without Charlotte's matter, it's normal for him to invite you to play golf. Won't you do him the honor?" Liao Dishing laughed and said, "Don't say that. I'll go, okay? I'll give President Huang face no matter what." "Then it's settled," Li Yulan said with a smile. Liao Dishing said again, "Right, I heard that President Huang recently wanted to buy a piece of land next to the Third Ring Road. Is that true?" "Well, yes, it's true," Li Yulan said. "The location of that piece of land is very good. Within 2 kilometers, there are hospitals, schools, and a large shopping center. It's a good place to settle down and live. It's the most suitable place to build a building." "Why, Chief Liao, you mentioned this. Do you have any connections?" Liao Dishing laughed and said, "I can't say that I have any connections, but I know a few people who can. If President Huang is willing, I can be a middleman." "That's good. Thank you in advance. You and my husband have a good talk this weekend. We'll talk about it here. I'll leave first." Li Yulan stood up. Liao Dishing also stood up. "Ms. Li, please tell President Huang that Charlotte, that kid, can forget about registering any company in Haizhu City. I can just find an excuse to keep his company in the application stage. He can dream about his company." Li Yulan just smiled and said, "Well, goodbye, Chief Liao. I'll walk you out." Liao Dishing went to open the door. At this moment, Charlotte withdrew his gaze and reached out to open the door. The moment they reached the door, Liao Dishing and Li Yulan stopped almost at the same time and looked at Charlotte and Liang Xiao in surprise. They didn't know Liang Xiao, but they had seen Charlotte's photo before, so they knew who the young man standing at the door was and could even guess why he was there. Liao Dishing quickly came back to his senses. He put on a straight face and said in an impolite voice, "Who are you? Why didn't you knock when you came in? What's the matter with you?" Charlotte smiled and said, "Sorry, I didn't pay attention and accidentally opened the door. You have no manners." Liao Dishing muttered. He spoke in a low voice, but Charlotte and Liang Xiao could still hear him clearly. He didn't seem to be worried that Charlotte and Liang Xiao would hear him, and he even did it on purpose. Liao Dishing said to Li Yulan, "Ms. Li, let me walk you out." Li Yulan said, "No, I'm not in a hurry. I still want to talk to you, but you can talk to this gentleman first. I'll wait for you." Liao Dishing glanced at Li Yulan and looked a little puzzled, but he quickly understood Li Yulan's thoughts and said, "Okay, then you wait." Then he looked at Charlotte and asked, "What's the matter?" Liao Dishing was acting, and Li Qinghua was watching the show. While watching the show, she also wanted to understand her husband's opponent. This was the cleverness of this woman. Charlotte went straight to the point and said, "Director Liao, I'm here to ask you what's going on. I submitted the application for company registration yesterday, and your subordinates also used the computer to search for the name Lima Manufacturing Company that I applied for. There was no duplicate name, and I submitted the application smoothly. But when I came to ask today, your subordinates told me that the name had been registered and rejected my application. So I want to ask you, what's the reason? Liao Dushing snorted coldly, with a contemptuous smile on the corner of his mouth. I thought it was a big deal, but it turned out to be such a trivial matter. The company name you applied for has been registered, so you can choose a new name and submit the application again. Go. If you have any more questions, you can go to the information desk. I'm very busy and have no time to talk to you. Charlotte's face also became gloomy, as if he was going to lose his temper at any time. Li Yulan stood at the side and watched quietly, a hint of a gloating smile on her lips. At this time, Liang Xiao interrupted and said, "As a civil servant who serves the people, Director, don't you think your attitude is a bit inappropriate?" Liao Dushing stared at Liang Xiao and said, "Who are you? How can you speak? Do I need you to tell me what my attitude is? If you're not satisfied, there's a complaint box in the hall below. You can go and complain to me." Liang Xiao said angrily, "It's because it's useless to complain that there's such a person sitting in this position and acting like a tyrant. Get out." Liao Dushing was angry. He pointed at the door of the office and shouted. Liang Xiao was also angry. "Why do you want me to go out? This is a place for the people to use, not just for you. You can call the police to arrest me. Go." Liao Dushing was so angry that he laughed. "I think you're here to cause trouble and obstruct public service. Very well, I'll call the police to arrest you now. You'd better be prepared to stay in the detention center for half a month. There's no room for negotiation." "You." Liang Xiao was a little scared. Charlotte said, "Let me talk to him." He said to Liao Dushing, "Director Liao, you don't have to use the police to scare me. My friend just quarreled with you. You don't have to arrest him for half a month, do you? I don't want to waste your time. I just want to ask, the Lima manufacturing company that I applied for can't be approved, right?" Liao Dushing said, "It definitely can't be approved." Charlotte said, "If I change the name of another company, you'll use the same reason to reject it, right?" Liao Dushing laughed. "What's wrong with you, young man? You can reapply. If there's no one with the same name, of course we'll approve it. But if you like to use the name of someone else's company, I can't do anything about it." Charlotte said, "It seems that you really don't want me to open a company." Both Liao Dushing and Li Qinghua had a gloating smile on their faces. Charlotte took out his mobile phone, opened the contact page, and dialed number. Then he said to the phone, "Is this Mr. Zhou? I'm Charlotte. I'm in a bit of trouble. Can you come and help me?" "Mr. Xia, what trouble are you in?" Zhou Wei's voice came from the phone. Charlotte said, "I'm in the Industry and Commerce Bureau of Haizhu City. I registered a company. A director deliberately made things difficult for me. Otherwise, I would have approved it. I tried my best to reason with him, but he just didn't listen to me. What do you think I should do? I have no choice. There's actually such a bastard. Wait for me. We'll be right there." Zhou Wei hung up the phone angrily. Xiaolei put away his phone and looked at Liao Dushing calmly. The corners of his mouth curled up into a gloating smile. Liao Dushing was calm at first, but when he saw Charlotte's gloating smile at him, he felt a bit guilty. He tentatively asked, "Who did you call just now?" "A friend," Charlotte said lightly. "What friend?" Liao Dushing asked again. Charlotte said snappily, "Why do you care so much?" "You." Liao Dushing was so angry that he glared at him. Li Yulan said with a smile, "Chief Liao, young people nowadays are hot-tempered and love to brag. You're an adult, so let him have his way. This is interesting. I also want to see what kind of friend this young man has invited to help." Liao Dushing seemed to get some assurance after hearing Li Yulan's words. He became bolder and sneered. "Well, I also want to see what kind of friend this kid has invited to help. Why don't you think I'll let your application that doesn't meet the regulations pass if you invite your friend? You're daydreaming." Charlotte didn't even want to talk to Liao Dushing. He said to Liang Xiao, "Miss Liang, let's sit and wait." Liang Xiao was actually very curious about what kind of friend Charlotte had invited to help him. He looked so confident. She responded softly and then sat on a sofa in the office with Charlotte. The atmosphere in the office suddenly became silent. Chapter 79. More than 10 minutes passed in the blink of an eye. Liao Dushing looked at his watch and sneered. Kid, where is your friend? Where is he? Li Yulan chimed in, Chief Liao, young people nowadays are like this. Sometimes they don't put the older people in their eyes. After all, they still lack the tempering of life and society. It's good for them to suffer some losses. This will help them understand the world and know that there are some people they can't afford to offend. They will also become mature. This sentence was obviously aimed at Charlotte. She was hinting that there were some people that Charlotte couldn't afford to offend. Liang Xiao was actually a little worried. She even suspected that Charlotte was just talking big, and it was a trick to force Liao Dushing to pass the application. However, she didn't say it out loud. After all, she was not familiar with Charlotte. She knew too little about Charlotte. Charlotte was very calm. He wasn't worried that Zhou Wei and Jiang Xin from Xinzhou Industry Group wouldn't come to the Bureau of Industry and Commerce to help. He also wasn't worried that Zhou Wei and Jiang Xin, who represented Xinzhou Industry Group, couldn't help him. What was the identity of Xinzhou Industry Group? It was a company that made fighter jets and tanks for the country. It was the foundation of the country. He had a very special value to Xinzhou Industry Group. How could Xinzhou Industry Group just stand by when he encountered a little trouble? What was the difference between solving this problem and killing a fly with a mosquito killer for Xinzhou Industry Group? In an environment where Europe and the United States imposed a strict technical blockade on China, Charlotte was the only person in China who could process the key parts that needed to be imported from Europe and the United States by hand. Just because of this, Charlotte wasn't worried at all that he couldn't do it. Kid, why don't you make another call to urge them? You have time, but I don't. My time is very precious, Liao Dushing said sarcastically. As soon as his voice fell, Zhou Wei and Jiang Xin appeared at the door of the office. Liao Dushing saw Zhou Wei and Jiang Xin and suddenly became cautious. Li Yulan also looked at Zhou Wei and Jiang Xin, guessing their identity. However, Zhou Wei and Jiang Xin were both new faces to her. She had never seen them before, so she couldn't guess that they were from Xinzhou Industrial Group. Charlotte stood up from the sofa and greeted them, saying, Mr. Zhou, Mr. Jiang, it's a good thing you're here. Director Liao Dushing just laughed at me, saying that I invited some shady friends to help me, and no matter who interceded, he wouldn't let me register the company. Liao Dushing felt a little guilty. He stood up and asked tentatively, You two are? Zhou Wei and Jiang Xin just glanced at him, not even bothering to greet Liao Dushing. Zhou Wei said, Mr. Xia, is he the director who made things difficult for you? He pointed to Liao Dushing. Charlotte smiled and nodded. That's him, Jiang Xin said angrily. How can a small bureau chief be so capable? He even dares to do such a thing? He looked at Liao Dushing. Do you still have eyes for the law? Liao Dushing stared blankly for a moment, then got angry. Who are you? How come I don't have eyes for the law? If you don't tell me who you are, I'll ask the security guards to escort you out. Do you want to know who we are? Zhou Wei said. Liao Dushing didn't say yes or no, but he glanced at Li Yulan. Li Yulan said with a smile, Gentlemen, let's talk nicely. Director Liao is a decent person. He can't talk to you like this. As an outsider, I can't stand it. Are you here to help this little brother solve his problem, or are you looking for trouble? Zhou Wei said, Well, I'll introduce myself. My name is Zhou Wei, and I'm the director of the purchasing department of Xinzhou Industry Group. Then he pointed to Jiang Xin and said, This is Jiang Xin. He's the director of the personnel department of Xinzhou Industry Group. Liao Dushing's face turned pale as soon as he heard his introduction. He was in the industry and commerce, so how could he not know the truth of Xinzhou Industry Group? Not only did he know what Xinzhou Industry Group produced, but he also knew the status of the company in China. In fact, he also knew that the directors of the company were all senior officers with military positions. Xinzhou Industry Group? Li Yulan didn't know what kind of company Xinzhou Industry Group was. She said, Is Xinzhou Industry Group also in charge of the approval of the registration of companies by the Industry and Commerce Bureau? Zhou Wei and Jiang Xin's eyes moved to Li Yulan, and their faces were unfriendly. Liao Dushing hurriedly said, Ms. Li, well, you go first. We'll talk about it another day. Then he gave Li Yulan a wink. Li Yulan didn't want to leave, but she noticed Liao Disheng's wink. Her heart skipped a beat, and she secretly said, "Do these two people have a big background?" "Who is she?" Zhou Wei asked Charlotte. Charlotte said, "Li Yulan, a member of the Chamber of Commerce. She and her husband are influential figures in Haizhu City. My application couldn't be approved because I once offended her husband, Huang Yihu. There was no problem with my application, but when Ms. Li came, my application was rejected." Li Yulan was very surprised because she thought that Charlotte didn't know her, let alone her husband, Huang Yihu. However, from Charlotte's words, she realized that Charlotte knew far more than that. Li Yulan's eyes suddenly became cold. How could there be such a thing? Jiang Xin took out his mobile phone and said, "I'll call my leader now and ask him to help you solve this problem." No. Liao Disheng suddenly panicked. He hurriedly held Jiang Xin's hand and said with a smile, "Mr. Jiang, this is a misunderstanding. Why do you need to ask your leader? It must be a colleague who made a mistake. I'll tell them now and ask them to review it again." Jiang Xin and Zhou Wei's identity had already made Liao Disheng afraid. If they wanted to ask for a higher leader, it would be terrible. Jiang Xin put down his mobile phone and stopped making the call. He came to help Charlotte solve the problem. If Liao Disheng was willing to solve the problem, he didn't need to ask anyone to help. After all, he and Zhou Wei were not from Haizhu City, so it was not convenient for them to do it. Zhou Wei said, "Then we'll do it in a special way. Just go through all the procedures at once." Liao Disheng actually only wanted to repeat the trial and delay time. He also wanted to confirm whether Zhou Wei and Jiang Xin's identities were real or not, but he didn't expect that Jiang Xin and Zhou Wei would ask for an exorbitant price. They wanted to go through all the procedures at once. He could open the door and let Charlotte go through all the procedures at once, but in that case, he couldn't explain it to Huang Yihu and Li Yulan. The sly Liao Disheng glanced at Li Yulan, as if he wanted some instructions from her. Li Yulan said indifferently, "You two sure talk big. I wonder what's your relationship with Mr. Xiaolei? Do I need to tell you?" Jiang Xin said, "If you want Director Liao to do it in a special way, you should at least prove the authenticity of your identity, right? Nowadays, there are many liars with good acting skills. Maybe your extra is hired by Charlotte." Li Yulan emphasized in a strange tone. This was also her instruction to Liao Disheng. If he didn't figure out the real identity and strength of these two people, there was no way Charlotte could do it. Charlotte didn't say anything and just watched quietly. He also wanted to figure out one thing. That was how much value he had to Shenzhou Industrial Group. And this was very important for what he wanted to do next. Jiang Xin and Zhou Wei glanced at each other. The two of them reached an agreement through their eyes. Both of them took out their IDs. However, they only took out ordinary IDs and their work certificates at Shenzhou Industry Group. They didn't take out their military officer IDs. Zhou Wei put the IDs on Liao Disheng's desk and said, "These are our IDs. Have a look." Liao Disheng looked at Zhou Wei's IDs and then looked at Jiang Xin's. The IDs were all real. He also knew the reason why the other party didn't take out their military officer IDs, because his rank was too low. Looking at the IDs, Liao Disheng laughed and said, "Haha, don't misunderstand. I will immediately." Li Yulan coughed. "Can you do it with just 2 IDs? How big are these IDs? What if they are fake?" Liao Disheng immediately retracted his smile. His forehead was also covered with fine beads of sweat. He was very clear about Li Yulan's intention. She didn't want to let Charlotte achieve his wish of registering the company. However, the two big shots from Shenzhou Industry Group in front of him were not easy to deal with. He was stuck in the middle. Both sides were not human. Charlotte was still calm. This was his business, but at this moment, he was like a bystander watching the fun. His current temperament was becoming more and more stable and calm. In the eyes of Jiang Xin and Zhou Wei, Charlotte's silence and calmness were interpreted in another way. Of the two of them, one was in charge of purchasing and the other was in charge of human resources. How could their ability to read people's expressions be weak? With Charlotte's indifferent attitude, how could they not see through Charlotte's thoughts? Jiang Xin and Zhou Wei looked at each other, and then Jiang Xin sneered. Director Liao, I don't think you can make the decision here. You actually want to do things according to this woman's wishes, right? Liao Dashing smiled. Mr. Jiang, what are you saying? He glanced at Li Yulan from the corner of his eye. Li Yulan didn't say anything. Charlotte was calm, but she was even calmer than Charlotte. She also had her backer, and that was the Gu family. In this matter, it was still Liao Dashing who was in a difficult position. Even if these two people had a powerful background, they couldn't do anything to Li Yulan. Old Zhou, give the leader a call. Jiang Xin put away the documents on the desk. It wasn't just his, but also Zhou Wei's. Zhou Wei took his phone and went out the door. Liao Dashing wanted to stop Zhou Wei, but he shut his mouth after being glared at by Li Yulan. Liang Xiao quietly tugged at Charlotte's sleeve and whispered into his ear, Mr. Xia, why aren't you saying anything? Can these two people help you? A smile appeared on the corner of Charlotte's mouth as he whispered to her, If they can't help me, then no one can help me. I didn't say anything. I just wanted to see how willing they were to help me. Huh? Liang Xiao was confused. Chapter 80. Zhou Wei returned to his office with his phone in his hand. Li Yulan laughed. Are you done? There's no response. Maybe your company is too far away and your leader doesn't have much influence here? Zhou Wei looked at Li Yulan and sneered. Your name is Li Yulan, right? I'll remember your name. Li Yulan gently shrugged. So what if you remember it? Just you wait, Zhou Wei said. At this moment, the phone on the table suddenly rang. Liao Dashing was about to answer the phone when Zhou Wei stepped forward and pressed the speaker button. A man's voice suddenly came from the phone. Liao Dashing, do you have a young man named Charlotte there from time to time? Hearing this man's voice, cold sweat appeared on Liao Dashing's forehead again. He nervously said, Mayor, yes, Charlotte is indeed here. Li Yulan's expression suddenly changed. Did Charlotte register Lima Manufacturing Company with the Industrial and Commercial Bureau? Mayor Hu's voice. Yes. The cold sweat on Liao Dashing's forehead became denser. Are you making things difficult for him and not letting him pass? Are you bastard? I'll give you half an hour to pass the review immediately. Special cases are special. Give the company's license to Charlotte. Okay, I'll do it right away. Come to my office after you're done. I want to talk to you. Then, Mayor Hu hung up the phone. Liao Dashing wiped his cold sweat and then said to Charlotte, Mr. Xiao, wait a moment. I'll do it right away. It won't take half an hour. Charlotte didn't say anything and just looked at him. Judging from Mayor Hu's tone just now, Liao Dashing's career had probably come to an end. Liao Dashing strode out of the office. This was the place where he gave orders, but now it had become the last place he wanted to be. Li Yulan carried her bag and walked out. Charlotte blocked in front of her and said coldly, Wait. Li Yulan took a step back and asked nervously, What do you want? Xiao Lei said, Bring a message to your husband. Your husband has disguised himself very well, but I will still catch him by the tail. I won't let my friend's death go just like that. I'll find him and settle the score with you. I don't know what you're talking about. For some unknown reason, Li Yulan felt a tinge of fear in her heart when she faced Xiao Lei. Get lost. Charlotte cursed and stepped aside. You. Li Yulan's face turned green with anger. She glared at Charlotte and walked out of the office with her bag. She was instructed by Huang Yihu to create obstacles for Charlotte and suppress Charlotte. In her opinion, this was just a trivial matter. She didn't expect that Charlotte could make a comeback under such circumstances. Not only did he make a comeback, but he also slapped her and Huang Yihu in the face. Charlotte looked at Zhou Wei and Liao Dashing and said with a smile, Thank you so much. Without your help, my company's license would not have been issued. Zhou Wei said, Mr. Xia, you're welcome. It's our honor to help you. Jiang Xin smiled and said, Mr. Xia, you are a very important partner of our company. You are also a special talent of our country. Your request is legitimate, so Liao Dashing has no reason to set obstacles for you. Charlotte said, You're too polite. Thank you very much. But after I get the company's license, I want to ask you two for a favor. Zhou Wei and Jiang Xin glanced at each other, exchanging glances. Jiang Xin said, Mr. Xia, what do you want us to do for you? Just tell me. Charlotte said, after I get the company's manufacturing license, I want to build a factory. I like a piece of land next to the 3rd ring road. It's number 13. I want to ask you to help me get that land. This. Zhou Wei and Jiang Xin looked embarrassed, and their eyes were full of embarrassment. Charlotte said, I only have one request. I won't bother you and your company anymore. If you help me, I'll process any parts you want me to process in the future. Zhou Wei said with a wry smile, Mr. Xia, it's not a problem to help you get the company's license, but to help you get a piece of land, this. Jiang Xin also said, yes, our company is in the capital, and our influence here is too small. We can help with ordinary things, but if you want us to help you get a piece of land here, we really don't have the ability. Charlotte said, you're too modest. I know how capable you are. You must help me with this. Zhou Wei tentatively said, well, Mr. Xia, what if we can't help you with this? Charlotte said, I will help you process this batch of parts, but after this order, I won't take any orders from your company. Mr. Xia, you. Zhou Wei looked very anxious. You're like a child. Jiang Xin also said, yes, Mr. Xia. How can you be as impulsive as if you're still there? The price we gave you is already the highest price. You're doing business. How can you refuse our order? Charlotte said, you said I'm like a child, and I'm really like a child. If I don't fight back when others hit me, I won't be in the mood to go to school or do my homework. You saw it just now? It was a Yulan and her husband, Huang Yihu, who bullied me. Do you think she and her husband are just targeting me? You're wrong. She and her husband murdered my friend. This. Jiang Xin looked bitter. Mr. Xia, we're a company, not the police. What you said is beyond our ability. This favor is really. Charlotte interrupted him and said slowly, originally, I wanted to find a chance to go abroad to the United States or Germany to see their most advanced machine tools, and then upgrade my company's machine tools to the same level as those in Europe and America. Now it seems that it's not necessary. Wait, Zhou Wei said excitedly. What did you just say? You can upgrade ordinary machine tools to the same level as those in Europe and America? Charlotte said, what's so difficult about that? As long as I see the drawings and the real thing, I can upgrade my machine tools. At that time, I can process as many parts as you need. Can you really do it? Jiang Xin also looked very excited. Charlotte spread out his palm. If I didn't have that ability, would you come to me? Would you help me get the company's license? Then, Jiang Xin said, we'll immediately arrange for you to go abroad. You can choose from Germany or America. We have channels to let you see the drawings and the real thing you need. When you go back and upgrade a machine tool, we'll take that land for you. Charlotte shook his head. First get the land, then go abroad. Mr. Xia, how can we help you like this? Zhou Wei said, first get the land, then go abroad. Charlotte repeated. Jiang Xin said with a bitter smile, Mr. Xia, you're really a child. Well, this is not something Zhou Wei and I can decide. We'll fly back to the capital now. We need to talk to our leader, and then the leader will make the decision. Once there's news, we'll contact you immediately. Charlotte's mouth showed a trace of a smile. Thank you. I'll wait for your good news. Well, let's not delay. We'll go to the airport now. Goodbye, Mr. Xia. Mr. Xia. Zhou Wei shook hands with Xia Lei. Jiang Xin also shook hands with Charlotte. Mr. Xia, remember your promise. Upgrade your machine tool to the world's most advanced level. Charlotte said, I promise you, as long as you help me, you'll see that kind of machine tool. Jiang Xin and Zhou Wei hurriedly left. For Shenzhou Industry Group, Charlotte's ability to process ultra-precision machining parts that could only be processed in Europe and America was not the biggest temptation, because they could also get the parts they needed from other sources, such as Israel. However, if Charlotte could upgrade ordinary machine tools to the world's most advanced machine tools, then this temptation was irresistible to Shenzhou Industry Group. The reason why Charlotte dared to ask for such a big price was also because he had a bargaining chip that Shenzhou Industry Group could not resist. Liang Xiao looked at Charlotte with a strange look. Mr. Xia, how can you be so sure that they will meet your requirements? Charlotte smiled. You study business. You must know the meaning of the idiom rare goods can be hoarded. What they want can only be bought from me, and what I want, they have to give me. Liang Xiao said, Of course I understand the meaning of rare goods can be hoarded, but it's a piece of land. Even if they can help you in the bid, do you have so much money? The land on the third ring road of Zhuhai City was often tens of millions of yuan. It was not uncommon for a good port to even reach hundreds of millions of yuan. She knew that Charlotte was just a studio, and even the company was still in the application stage. How could he have so much money to buy land? Charlotte smiled and said, Miss Liang, Shenzhou Industry Group is a large national enterprise. This enterprise belongs to the country, and it is very important to the country. It's very easy for Shenzhou Industry Group to win a piece of land. I really don't have money, but even if the land is worth 50 million yuan, I will only give 1 or 2 million yuan. Liang Xiao looked at Charlotte dumbfounded. Aren't you shameless, aren't you? Charlotte said, I'm shameless. Didn't they say that I'm like a child? Isn't it reasonable for a child like me to do so? Liang Xiao gave Charlotte a thumbs up and giggled. Mr. Xia, I study business, but today I find that I'm like a primary school student in front of you. You're a business student. Xiaolei said, Don't praise me. I was forced to do this. I want to seek justice for my friend. If I take the normal way, I won't be able to achieve my wish even if I have 50 years. Well, let's go down and see how it's going, and then let's see the land. Liang Xiao said, Well, I also want to see that land. After leaving Liao Dushing's office, before they reached the hall, Liao Dushing came over with a stack of documents. Mr. Xia, it's done. Liao Dushing had a flattering smile on his face. Let's go to the office and talk. I'll make you a cup of tea. Charlotte took the stack of documents from Liao Dushing's hand, glanced at it, and then said lightly, Director Liao, your tea is too good. I'm not used to it. You'd better invite distinguished people like Huang Yihu and Li Yulan to drink it. Mr. Xia, Liao Dushing looked pitiful. Can you put in a good word for me in front of your two friends? You see, I've done what you want to do. Charlotte said, No, I'm not very familiar with them. Liao Dushing was suddenly angry on the spot. Chapter 81. The land next to the third ring road was not big, only 20 acres of land. The government's price was 6,000 yuan per square meter, so it would cost at least 80 million yuan to buy this land. This was without bidding. If the government held an open bidding and developers participated in the bidding, then the transaction price of this land might double or even exceed 200 million yuan. After all, its port was really good, and no developer would not be tempted. After looking at the land, Liang Xiao's expression was very strange. It's really a waste to use such a good piece of land to build a factory. If it were me, I would use it to build a building. The location here is very good, and there are schools and hospitals around it. It can be sold for 10,000 yuan per square meter casually. Building an apartment with elevators, wow, it's rich all at once. Charlotte said with a smile. Huang Yihu wants this land to build a building. You have the same idea as him, but he wants to use it to build a building, and I want to use it to build a factory. Aren't you going to piss him off? Liang Xiao said. Charlotte said, It would be good if I could piss him off, but people like him won't die easily. Good people don't live long. Bad people live for thousands of years. He thought of Ma Shaoan again. Liang Xiao comforted him. Don't be sad. I'm worried that this land is so valuable that there must be a lot of developers who are interested in it. Can your two friends really get this land for you? Moreover, you have no money. Charlotte smiled and said, I'm not worried at all. Let's go, Miss Liang. Let's find a place to have a drink and celebrate the establishment of my company. Okay, but don't call me Miss Liang in the future. Liang Xiao said with a smile. You can call me Xiao. Charlotte said, Okay, then don't call me Mr. Xia. You can call me Lei. Lei. Liang Xiao and Charlotte looked at each other and smiled. They left the open space and walked to the Great Wall H6 parked on the side of the road. Just then, 3 cars stopped on the side of the road. The first car was a black Maybach commercial sedan, followed by a Mercedes-Benz S600 and a BMW 730i. These three cars were not luxury cars that ordinary people could afford to drive. The door of the Maybach opened, and a young man in a black suit came down from the passenger seat and opened the rear door. A middle-aged man got out of the car. He was dressed very casually, but he gave off a very classy feeling. Charlotte's gaze fell on the middle-aged man and suddenly stopped moving. The person who got out of the Maybach was Huang Yihu. Charlotte had seen Huang Yihu's photo last night, so he recognized him immediately. There were also people getting out of the other two cars. Each car had a main character and a follower. The boss, the bodyguard, and the driver were easy to distinguish. Just then, a woman got out of the Maybach. It was Li Yulan, who had left the Trade and Industry Bureau earlier. Huang Yihu and Li Yulan hadn't found Charlotte and Liang Xiao yet. The couple led the other three bosses to the number 13 land through a small path, talking as they walked. Mr. Wang, after we get this land, I will hand the project over to your Lingyun Construction Company, Huang Yihu said to one of the bosses. The boss said, "Thank you very much. It's not the first time that our Lingyun Construction Company has cooperated with you, Mr. Huang." "No problem," Li Yulan said to another boss. "Mr. Zhou, we will contract all the construction materials, gravel, and steel bars to your construction company." The boss called Mr. Zhou smiled and said, "That's no problem. It's not the first time that we've cooperated. Old rules, old rules." At this time, Huang Yihu stopped and said with a smile, "Since Mr. Zhou said the old rules, let's do it according to the old rules. Let's make a lot of money together." The boss called Mr. Zhou said, "Boss Huang, we definitely have no problem here. It's just that there are many people who want this land. It's not that I don't want to be rude, but what if you can't get this land?" Huang Yihu said, "Can't get it? There's no land in Haizhu that I, Huang Yihu, can't get. Not only will I get it, but I will also get it at the lowest price. Other developers won't bid." The boss called Mr. Wang looked surprised. Huang Yihu sneered, "Bid? I'll visit them one by one. I like to see who dares to compete with me." Huang Yihu. The bosses, who were addressed as Director Zhou and Director Huang, looked at each other and laughed. Indeed, in Haizhu, who dared to compete with Huang Yihu for land? Liang Xiao saw Li Yulan and said, "Lei, should we avoid these people?" Charlotte said, "Why should we avoid them? This is not their place." All right. Liang Xiao was also a woman who was not afraid of trouble. She looked at Huang Yihu next to Li Yulan and said, "Lei, is the man next to that woman the Huang Yihu you mentioned?" Charlotte nodded and said, "It's Huang Yihu." He snorted and said, "Didn't you hear their conversation?" Huang Yihu has already regarded this land as his. Huang Yihu had obviously regarded this land as his since he had brought people from the construction company and the building materials company to see the land and talk about business. Liang Xiao said, "He has triangular eyes and fierce eyebrows. Huang Yihu doesn't look like a good person." At this time, Huang Yihu's bodyguard saw Charlotte and Liang Xiao. He followed them and said sternly, "What are you doing? This is a construction site. Who allowed you to come in?" Huang Yihu, Li Yulan, and the others also looked at Charlotte and Liang Xiao. In that instant, the expressions of the husband and wife immediately changed, becoming extremely unsightly, carrying clear hatred. Although it was the first time Huang Yihu had seen Charlotte, he knew what Charlotte looked like, where he lived, and what he had done. He even knew what had happened in the Industry and Commerce Bureau 2 hours ago, which was equivalent to Charlotte slapping him in the face. At this moment, when he saw Charlotte, the hatred and hostility in his heart showed on his face. His eyes seemed to want to drink Charlotte's blood and eat Charlotte's flesh. "I'm talking to you. Are you all deaf?" Huang Yihu's bodyguard was very grumpy. Charlotte said, "I didn't talk because I didn't want to talk to you. You're not blind. Can't you see it? You mother of asterisk cur." Huang Yihu's bodyguard suddenly became angry and strode over. Charlotte didn't even move. He just quietly looked at Huang Yihu's bodyguard. A sneer appeared at the corner of Huang Yihu's mouth. He was very clear about the strength of his bodyguard. It was not comparable to the street gangsters called by Chun Chuanhu. He thought that his bodyguard could deal with Charlotte and the woman next to Charlotte in a few seconds. After that, he would step on Charlotte's face, unzip his zipper, and pee on Charlotte's head. You idiot! Huang Yihu's bodyguard waved his fist at Charlotte's head as soon as he came up. Charlotte's right elbow cut inward from the outside and blocked the bodyguard's right elbow. He blocked the bodyguard's fist, and then his right hand moved forward. A short bridge jab hit the bodyguard's heart. Bang! With a muffled sound, the bodyguard groaned, and his face turned pale. His body fell back, but before he fell to the ground, Charlotte's body suddenly stuck to him. Charlotte's fists hit him continuously. In the blink of an eye, he had punched his lower abdomen no less than 10 times. Puff! The bodyguard's mouth spat out a mouthful of blood, and he fell to the ground with his head up. He struggled to get up, but he just propped up less than 10 centimeters high, and then he fell down softly. From the time Huang Yihu's bodyguard attacked to the time he fell to the ground, the whole process only took 5 seconds. In such a short time, a normal person could only blink a few times. But in such a short time, a professional bodyguard was knocked down. Everyone's eyes were focused on Charlotte. Some were shocked, and some were afraid. The only one who was normal was Liang Xiao, because she was very clear about Charlotte's strength. Even Lu Sheng, who was like an Iron Man, couldn't beat Charlotte, let alone this bodyguard. Bah! Xiaolei spat a mouthful of saliva on Huang Yihu's bodyguard's face and pretended to be a hooligan. He cursed, "Motherf asterisk cur, I couldn't find a place to vent my anger today, and you provoked me. Do you think I'm afraid of you because you have a stupid boss? Let me tell you, even if your boss is here, if he dares to talk nonsense, I will still beat him up." These words were obviously directed at Huang Yihu. It couldn't be more obvious. The two bosses who came with him looked at Huang Yihu with strange eyes. They didn't say anything, but their eyes seemed to be saying to Huang Yihu, "Aren't you the boss of the underworld? Can you bear being insulted like this?" Huang Yihu's face was already the color of pig liver. He regretted only bringing one bodyguard this time. Charlotte insulted him and provoked him at this moment, but he couldn't beat Charlotte. Although the two bosses who came with them also brought bodyguards, the skills that Charlotte showed just now had shocked them. Not to mention that without their respective bosses' orders, even if their bosses ordered them, they wouldn't dare to challenge Charlotte. The atmosphere became dull and tense. Huang Yihu reached out to touch his waist. Charlotte's eyes fell on Huang Yihu's waist. His left eye twitched slightly, and then he saw a black pistol. His heart suddenly became nervous, and his brain was also quickly thinking of countermeasures. His eyes moved to Li Yulan, and he was ready to rush up the moment Huang Yihu pulled out the gun, push Li Yulan towards Huang Yihu, and then take the opportunity to shoot away Huang Yihu's pistol. This was very risky, but it was the best way. At this critical moment, Li Yulan suddenly grabbed Huang Yihu's hand, and she whispered something in Huang Yihu's ear. Charlotte's eyes locked on Li Yulan's lips, and he used his lips to interpret Li Yulan's words. "Ahu, this kid is deliberately provoking you. He has someone protecting him. Even if you pull out the gun and kill him, we're finished if you shoot him in broad daylight. He's just a poor kid, and there's no need to fight with him. There will be plenty of opportunities to deal with him." This was what Li Yulan said to Huang Yihu. Huang Yihu put down his hand, and he looked at Charlotte and said fiercely, "Kid, do you know who I am?" Charlotte's tensed nerves also relaxed, and he said tit for tat, "Huang Yihu, even if you turn into ashes, I will still recognize you. Today, I will make it clear. Sooner or later, I will make you pay for my friend's life." "Ha ha ha." Huang Yihu laughed. "You? Do you think you are worthy?" Charlotte sneered. "Whether I am worthy or not, you will soon find out." Huang Yihu pointed at Charlotte. "Fine, you have guts. Whatever tricks you have, use them on me. I will take them all. I like to see who will laugh in the end." Li Yulan remained quite calm, and her mind was also the most meticulous. She tentatively said, "Mr. Xia, I didn't expect us to meet so soon. I want to ask, what are you doing here?" Charlotte said, "I'm here to look at the land." "You're here to look at the land?" Li Yulan looked at Charlotte in surprise. Not only her, but Huang Yihu and the two bosses who came with him were also very surprised. You're tuning into the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.